Hello, Internet. I am Brandon, as you know, since you're on my Facebook page, and I'm here with my brother Chris, and we are going to talk about the new Batman movie. So this is something new that we're starting to see how this works. So it looks like we're live. All right. So Chris, you saw the new Batman movie. How many times have you seen Batman so far?
I think we're tied. I've seen it twice, although it was a few weeks ago the last time I saw it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I just saw a second time on Thursday. All right.
Impressions for your second viewing?
Um,
Did it get better or worse?
I would say about the same. But I've
Mhm.
really enjoyed it. So I mean, I we haven't even talked about it yet at all. So I don't even know what you're thinking about.
I like it.
Okay. No,
I've got
I
pros and cons, but I
okay.
go
All
for it.
right. Yeah, no, so I do I've really enjoyed the movie. At first, I remember when I first heard about it, man, that took them like forever to make this movie because like at first Ben Affleck was going to make a Batman movie, like his own single Batman movie after the Justice League movie came out. And then
I
so
might
I
have liked that.
and um and then they finally decided to not go that route, and I remember kind of following that, and then I found out that Robert Pattinson, I
Mhm.
think was his name, um, was going to be Batman, and
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know about that, right? I mean, the Twilight
Well,
guy.
that's a good place to start it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. So, what did you think? What did you think of Robert Pattinson as Batman?
I like him. Uh,
I'm pretty sure that's his
I buy
name.
him. I definitely buy him as Batman. He looks good in the suit. I buy him. He's a young Batman to me.
Hmm.
I have to give him a bit of an asterisk. He's a young Batman, but I think that's kind of what they're going for.
Right, right, yeah, because they even say in the beginning of the movie that this is his second year. It's
Mhm.
either this is in his second year or it's been 2 years. I forgot exactly how they worded that, but something about 2 years. So he's definitely a new Batman still. Um, and okay, so you said you like his Batman. Is there a contrast to his Bruce Wayne?
Uh, I don't mind. I like him as Bruce Wayne. I do feel like there's a lot of this might be a different part of the conversation, but I feel in general there was a bit of a human element lacking in a lot of the dialogue between the characters
Hmm.
sometimes. So that kind of influences how I feel about him as Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
But when he is doing Bruce Wayne stuff, I I like him as Bruce Wayne. I just feel like maybe sometimes the writing between his interactions with other characters is a little stilted. So I didn't get a big enough sense of what I want of. I didn't get a big enough sense of who he is as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
it's just a little lacking. But what there was, I liked it. Um, a little, definitely a lot quieter and more emo than any other Bruce Wayne we've seen.
yeah, yeah,
But it makes sense. It looks like he's been traumatized.
yeah, yeah. So it really worked for me. Now, but I think you kind of was kind of mentioning this point is he's not Bruce Wayne a lot in this movie. This movie is a Batman movie, and it's really
Yeah,
exploring the character of Batman. I think so more than many other movies, and it's like
so
really,
much detective stuff. I loved it.
yeah. And so he's very actually very rarely Bruce Wayne, and I found his Bruce Wayne to be a very different kind of Bruce Wayne because usually we get the like very philanthropist type of Bruce Wayne where he's purposely trying to be more eccentric when he's Bruce Wayne to throw people off that he's Batman. Where here, if people just
Hmm.
start to put two to two together, it's like, okay, we got a broody superhero person out there, and we got a broody billionaire out there. It's not going to take long for people to start connecting dots here, I think. Um, and so, but I still think it really worked because he really, you said like emo, but like really just kind of shut in kind of a Bruce Wayne, which kind of makes sense. Like he was traumatized. And
Hmm.
that's kind of why he took on this Batman role. So I didn't mind that it was so different than the previous type of Bruce Waynes, like the Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne, the Val Kilmer Bruce Wayne. I'm not going to include George Clooney. I don't count him at all. Um, and the
He was
Christian
just George Clooney.
yeah, George Clooney, he was nothing. But the Christian Bale Bruce Wayne, right? And I just last night I just watched Batman Begins just to kind of remind myself how Christian Bale played because that's my other favorite Batman series was the
Hmm.
Nolan series.
Oh yeah.
and just to kind of refresh
Right.
myself on how he develops as a Bruce Wayne character and Batman, because that's what Batman Begins is all about, is a deep dive onto that character aspect of it all. But anyway, back to Robert Pattinson. I really enjoyed him. I was pleasantly surprised on his Batman. I really liked his Batman. Um, I was really impressed with his acting in that he could communicate a lot without even saying anything. Like in the very beginning of the movie, the guy who's running for mayor, I think he's the active mayor, and he's also running for re-election or something. He's murdered right in the beginning. That guy.
Mitchell.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds about right. I forgot his name, but yeah, that sounds about right. But so Batman's there, and then as he's leaving, he sees the kid, and he makes eye contact with the kid, and he doesn't say
I like that part.
anything. Yeah, he doesn't say anything, but you could just express that he could
You get it.
sympathize with the kid. His parents were murdered, and this movie barely even mentions like Bruce's backstory, like his parents. Like it kind of expects the audience to already know because we've seen it 1,000 times already, right? So, and it doesn't say it
Yeah.
there at all.
The Nolan trilogy really kind of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The Nolan trilogy really just like did the definitive movie, background of that story arc. But so the movie at this point hasn't even
Mhm.
explained Batman's background, right? And it's just kind of expects us to already know, which anyone watching this does. And so all he does is just look at the kid. But it's just his body language, even when his half his face is covered, it still expresses
Mhm.
so much of how he's sympathizing with this kid because he went through what this kid went through, and it's just little stuff like that, like all throughout. It's not so much how he says his things; it's how he's expressing himself through his body language, even in a bat suit, and just how much that comes off. So I was very impressed with his Batman and just his just the
He's a
way he
good
came
actor.
off.
I've seen him in other things.
I haven't really seen him in
I've also
much.
seen I've seen the very first Twilight and I saw the very, very last Twilight, both in theaters. I
Okay.
was with a girl and then I was with mom.
Ah.
Um, but I don't have you seen or heard of The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe? It's all black and
I've
white.
heard of it, and I heard it was really
That's him.
good, and I heard,
He's a great actor.
yeah, and I heard he did really, really good on that, but I have not seen that movie myself.
Okay.
Hey,
Well,
Serenity.
that's pretty much my only other experience, as far as I know, with his acting. But he he got my support from there,
Okay.
and so I wasn't really like, oh man, the guy from Twilight
Yeah.
for Batman. Maybe a little at first, but I was like,
He's grown. Okay.
Nolan got me twice with Heath Ledger and Anne
I
Hathaway,
mean,
and I was
that's
proven
true.
wrong twice. So
That's true. I mean, and I thought about that. It's like, okay, well, like I did not like Heath Ledger initially, like the thought of Heath Ledger as
we
Joker.
were proven wrong.
And then, yeah, the same, and then with Hannah Anne Hathaway, I didn't really even have an issue up front with her. I was like, eh, and she was okay. She was okay as Catwoman. I didn't have any real issue with her as Catwoman. Um,
I was hesitant, but I was proven wrong.
okay, but yeah. So I was hoping that's what this was gonna be, and then the trailer came out. Then when I saw the first like main trailer where it ends with Penguin upside down and you just see Batman walking upside down, which is a great scene in the
Mhm.
movie. It was a great scene in the trailer. And I remember in that scene, it's like the closing scene in the trailer and just the music ramps up. And I was like, ooh, this looks really good. This looks like, okay, it looks like
I'm
they're
not
onto
sure if
something
I've
here.
seen. I'm not sure if I've seen any of this guy's other movies. I haven't seen the Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones. What else has he done?
Oh, Matt Reeves? Yeah, I don't
Do you know?
know.
Yeah, he did one or two of the recent Planet of the Apes movies, but
Yeah, I
I
think he
don't.
did a
After
couple of
that, I
them.
don't know what.
Well, I'll pull it up on my phone. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else he's done. I've heard
So,
his
what do you
name
think of
around. Oh, go ahead.
what do you think of like the Batman part of Batman, like the bat suit and the fighting and the and like all the his gadgets and the way Batman was actually portrayed?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Talking about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I really liked his introduction. Um, at first he has this kind of like monologue in the very beginning talking about how it's been 2 years.
Great monologue.
And yeah, at first I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, having like that's kind of going the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man route a little bit, but not like cheesy wise, but
Yeah,
just the idea of opening a superhero movie with a monologue. I thought about that, but then when you see the ending and he has a closing monologue, I thought that paired really well. Just the opening monologue and then his closing monologue at the end of the movie, I thought was really well done as a structure. Um, but I do remember noting it the first time, like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like they're kind of going a monologue route. But anyway, a voiceover route. But yes, and you see the light, his signal in the air, and he's having like he is the shadow, and like he's like he can't be everywhere, but bad guys don't really know where he is, and he's using that against them, right? The fear element of all
I
that.
like that.
Yeah, so I liked
That's great.
that, which again, that really does contrast with his lesson learned at the end of the movie during his ending monologue as well. So I like that parallel to it. But I do like everything he's saying in the beginning as well. And you don't, and even as the audience, because it keeps panning to like shadows. You have the guy who robs the store and it pans to an alleyway. Is Batman there? You have the guys who spray painted and the spray paint can falls into the shadows. Is Batman there? And that's part of the point is like, where's Batman? Like, well, we don't know. He might be there. He might not be there. We don't know where he is. So we're gonna stop what we're doing and get out of here. And then his finally he reveals him in the shadows at the subway or whatever the train. I don't know if it's a train or subway or what it was exactly. I think it was
Yeah,
a subway. But
I think it was a subway.
and so then he comes and then he does reveal himself. And then he has that first fight with the guy who kind of looks like Joker. He kind of looks like Nostalgia Critic mixed with Joker. Yeah, did you notice that? Kind of looks
I
like Doug Walker.
I think the makeup is making him look. I think the makeup is making him look a little bit more like Doug Walker. I want to see what he
Okay.
looks like without that
Yeah,
makeup.
yeah, without it, yeah.
I'm
To
guessing
me,
it's
it's
a
like
nod to
Nostalgia
like
Critic.
some
You
kind
in
of
here?
Joker gang.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it because like Batman Beyond has the Jokers, right? It's a gang that's kind of based on the Jokers. So I
Yeah,
don't know if this was because at this point Joker's already been arrested. He's already in asylum. He's not. I don't think he's like the Joker yet. Is kind of what Matt Reeves has said in interviews. But he's like he is the Joker. He's just not the Joker yet. Is kind of like how
hmm,
he was explaining it. But anyway, but that's his introduction, and then he like beats the crud out of these guys, and
hmm.
I like that fight. I liked all
I
his
really
fight
like that
scenes.
fight scene. I like how he takes a few shots too.
Yeah.
He takes a few bullets to the chest.
Did
I
you
like that.
ever? Did you
It's
ever?
realistic that he's not just like this perfect ninja that's just gonna get the clean job every time, kind of like Michael
Yeah,
Keaton
it's
and
it's
Christian Bale,
gritty.
who like, never takes a hit. That's kind of unrealistic. But this one, he takes a few punches and a few shots a few times, and I like that.
Yeah,
That's a lot more realistic. I like that.
yeah. There's a little bit more like kind of a grittiness to his fight scenes. Did you ever watch the Netflix Daredevil?
I watched the first couple of episodes.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Well,
I
in the,
I don't know why, but I stopped just before Kingpin.
oh,
That was a
okay. I
mistake.
mean, it
But
gets really good, but I bring it up because of there's a really cool fight scene. I think it's in the second episode
oh,
of Daredevil, the hallway fight scene.
the hallway fight scene.
And that's what this
I've
really
heard of it.
reminded
Yeah,
me of. It's just that kind of like that realistic, gritty um fight. And that's kind of like
dirty.
how he fought. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so for me, I really did
but
appreciate
he's
that.
also Batman and efficient.
Say again?
Um, but at the same time, he's also Batman and efficient. So he takes a few hits, but
Yeah,
he's
yeah. I
also
mean, he
clear and
is
deliberate.
trained. He is, yeah. I mean, so he gets the job done. Um, yeah, and so he just beats the crud out of the guys, and I really liked it. Um, so yeah, so I really did like his fight scenes with it.
And I
Seems
really
like
like the in
okay,
the opening monologue. I really like how he's talking about like he is the shadows, and then it cuts to some people who are actually getting beat up, and he's like, "It's a big city," mentioning that he can't be everywhere. I really like that
yeah,
subtle little inclusion. That's
yeah,
also another little touch that they didn't have to put in, but it really adds something to Gotham.
yeah. It really, I mean, it really kind of made Gotham its own character in a sense, like the city. Like you really
Yeah,
felt the grittiness
if
of
you're gonna make
Gotham.
a Batman movie, you can't forget about Gotham as a character because it really is one of the best parts of Batman. This isn't gonna
Yeah, so
see if I can
really like the
focus.
beginning, but then the guy he saves is afraid of him, and I like that contrast as well. And so because it kind of connects to the ending of the movie, where that's kind of his lesson learned, where he needs to still be a fear
Hmm.
to like if you're bad, you should fear him, but if you're good, you should see him as like a symbol of hope, right? And that's kind of like the lesson learned at the end. He can't just be fear. He also needs to be a little bit more than that. But I know that's getting into the ending. But yeah, no, I really liked it. And then his gadgets, it seemed like his gadgets were still being developed to a degree. Like his flight suit, like in about halfway point in
Yeah,
the movie, like that flight
those
suit's
things
got,
exist.
yeah, yeah, and but it's kind of clunky, right? It doesn't have like that smoothness that like Christian Bale's Batman gliding ability had. It's a little bit more clunky, and he it looked like that's the first time he ever tried that. Like he himself, like he's like whoa, like when he's up on top. So it's like
Yeah, that
he's
was
not,
great.
he's still learning his own gadgets and experimenting with them, and it's just yeah, I really liked it.
I'm pretty sure I saw a little blurb on YouTube where the director was talking about how in in that particular moment when Batman was about to jump off the building, that was Robert Pattinson's decision to make that little expression of fear just before he did it. That was just
Okay.
like a one little decision he made during one of the takes, and they
Hmm.
went with that one, and it's really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of has
But I wonder
a
what the other
human
takes were
element
like.
to it.
Yeah, especially because this is a beginning Batman.
Yeah,
Let me ask you about the bat suit. Unless you wanted to move on to a specific point or there was something you wanted to say.
yeah.
How do you feel about the bat suit?
Um, yeah. I mean, I liked it. I didn't really have any particular thoughts on it, really.
Mm.
I thought it worked. Did you have any particular thoughts on
Okay.
it?
I like it a lot. I do have one little complaint. It's very small and it doesn't bug me that much, but I don't really like the little guns or whatever they are on his gauntlet,
Okay.
the little pipes or whatever they
Yeah.
are. I don't necessarily dig that as a design choice for like a realistic Batman. I I guess they shoot stuff out. I'm not sure. Did they did he use them in the movie?
The only thing I could think of that, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that is. The only thing I could think of is he has, like when he punches a guy, he electrocutes him in one scene, in that opening scene. And so I was like, is that his like, oh man, what is that called? Like a stun gun kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's what that. I don't really know what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't recall if he ever shot any like darts or ropes or something out
I
of
don't.
those things, but
I don't think
just
so.
as a design choice, it's not my favorite. Really
Okay.
doesn't make a big difference, but enough to point out.
Okay. Yeah. The only thing.
Otherwise, I like it.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of what that thing is it's the thing that shocks people. Because yeah, there's a point where he's like has a guy. It's that opening scene when he like shocks
Mhm.
him after he hits him. So that's the only thing I could think that what that might be. Is yeah, I don't know. It looks like he has more free range in his head movement compared to previous Batmans. The
Yeah,
half point kind of like the neck isn't so
stiff.
so
It's
yeah,
not
so
just
stiff,
like
like solid. Yeah, he's actually able to move around his
uh,
neck, and so that's a little bit more realistic. Which but it also
I
makes
heard
it reveal
when
more
Michael
of his
Keaton first
face.
put on that.
Say again.
Mhm. I heard when Michael Keaton first put on the mask and like one of the first days of shooting,
Yeah,
like he had to look and he just like looked and the mask stayed the same and he just looked right into rubber.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They can
So it
he
just made
couldn't turn
kind of
his head in
instinct.
that. And I
It had to
think
be all
even
shoulder work.
and that was like all the bat suits in those first four movies were like that, as I
Mhm.
recall, where you really couldn't move the head. And then even Christian Bale's first, Batman Begins bat suit,
That might be my least one of my least favorite bat suits. I
Christian
really
Bale's
don't
bat
like
suit.
the Batman Begins. The first one. I really, really like the Dark Knight one, but I hate the Batman Begins one.
Huh. I'd have to look
It's
at
a
them side by
big
side.
contrast for me.
I
Huh?
don't even remember. I don't remember the difference.
Oh.
I'd have to look at
Um,
it.
it's just the first one is a lot. It looks a lot like he made it himself at home, and it's a lot more
Yeah.
fabricy.
Okay.
The second one looks like it's actual armor.
Hmm.
I really like the Dark Knight one, but I just hate the Batman Begins one.
Hmm. Okay.
It's just a step above bat nipples for me.
um. Okay. But I do remember when Dark Knight did come out, one of the big things was like Batman was able to turn his head.
Yeah, I
And
felt good for him. I was like, oh yeah, thank God. He's a ninja. He needs to do that.
yeah, so anyway, so that's the only thing I really kind of like picked up on, or just stood out to me, was how much of his face was revealed, because most Batman suits like block this part,
Oh
but that
yeah,
part was all exposed still, his cheeks.
you see a lot of his cheekbones, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's that way
Never
so that
noticed
he
that.
could turn his head.
Uh-huh.
Um,
A lot of the time, I'm kind of looking at that little black flap that rests at the bottom of his chin for
hmm,
some reason. Um, that's not a bad thing. It's just it does stick out a little bit. It's not a bad thing though. It's
okay,
not a con.
okay.
It's just a little distracting, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's not a
only
bad
once in a while do I notice it. I didn't
thing.
really
You
notice
notice
it
it
that
too?
much. I think so. I'm trying to remember if I noticed it from that movie or from Batman Begins, because Batman Begins has something like that too, I think.
I don't remember.
Maybe not. I watched both of them recently, so I might be mixing them up myself.
I feel like you can see Christian Bale's chin, like all of it. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up the Batman and take a look at it.
I do miss that he doesn't get to use his cape for flying. That was kind of cool, but it's a lot more realistic that it's I don't know what you call it, a
It's like a
flight
squirrel
suit.
suit, yeah.
Yeah, what are those things called? A
So,
squirrel suit?
well, I mean that's probably not a technical name, but that's just what I call it.
Makes me reminds me of that.
Um, okay, all right. So the beginning of the movie, we kind of already addressed like the murder, right? That's how it
Hmm.
opens. Is you don't know it at first, but Riddler spying on the mayor, and
At very first, I thought it was that.
yeah, then that's what I thought too. Is like, oh, are we getting the origin? Are we starting out with this? Because at first I thought this was gonna be like Thomas Wayne and all that, like that he was spying on, and I thought the murder was
Oh,
gonna be of
I thought it was
Bruce's
Batman
parents.
who was spying on them. Actually,
Oh, okay. So I thought this was. I mean, I thought it was a bad guy that was spying on him. Just the way I don't know. It came across that way to me, and I thought who we were looking at was Batman's parents initially, and so
hmm.
I thought that's how it was gonna start, just based off that scene, because it
Oh,
looks like a rich
I
family.
think they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
I think they did that on purpose because the very first Michael Keaton Batman movie does a fake out where you think that's Bruce Wayne's parents and everyone
Oh yeah,
when
yeah,
I very first saw Batman 89, I thought, "Oh, this is how Batman's going to become Batman." Oh, that's just some random people that Batman saves. Okay.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was an intentional fake out. So
Okay,
maybe they were doing something like that here too,
maybe.
just to kind of like say that everyone receives like there's everyone has to deal with tragedy sort of thing. Maybe
Okay.
that's the comment that they're making. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and so then and so he pans out like he's spying. He has his camera, whatnot, whatever he's looking through, and we see a ninja who later is revealed to be a kid. But I didn't, the
Mhm.
first time I watched it, I didn't know that. I thought it was a ninja, and I thought the ninja was the
He was
bad
getting
guy,
assassinated.
and I thought the guy kind of watching him was like his spot person. So I thought they were like working together, kind of thing. And then you see the ninja. We don't know anything yet, and we see, like pull out a sword and like stab this guy. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a different take on how Batman's parents die, like get infiltrated by a
Uh-huh.
parent, right? But then you realize
No
it's
sword.
Halloween. Yeah, 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 no swords. But then you realize it's Halloween, and that's actually his kid, and he's about to go trick or treating. And then you zoom in and you see he's running for mayor and all that, and he's like trying to watch the election and the polls and stuff like that. And then you get the first reveal of the Riddler in the house. What do you think of
That's a
the
great
Riddler?
scene.
This was a
I like that
very
part.
different kind of Riddler. What do you think of the Riddler?
Uh, it's complicated. I do and I don't like his costume.
Okay.
I have a lot to say about the Riddler. He's one of my favorite villains.
Okay.
So, how much time you get? Um, so basically, for most of the movie, I absolutely loved. I loved his riddles. I loved the detective work that they had to do.
Mhm.
I loved it. I love the representation of the Riddler. My favorite challenge that he did was at the funeral with the car,
Okay.
with the guy with the
Yep.
thing, which actually leads next into my favorite scene in the movie, but I'll get to that.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, for most of the movie, I like the Riddler quite a bit. I'm okay with the like duct tape looking costume. It's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
It's it's modern, whatever. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it.
Okay.
I don't like the interrogation scene.
Oh, okay.
I
Is that at
think
the end of the movie?
Riddler kind of, I think the entire villain kind of loses steam there. I I I I absolutely applaud the effort, the decision to have the villain just kind of out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
and for the final act, and Batman's just kind of dealing with his plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a bold, uh, mature move for a Batman movie to make.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really, really, really wanted Batman to be like in some kind of decrepit building that Riddler had turned into some kind of jigsaw-esque death
Yeah.
maze.
Okay.
That's the Riddler I've always wanted to see. They touched on it in Batman Forever, but it's just one little thing that Batman has to do, and then he's at the Riddler. He has to flip that giant metal spiky thing in Batman Forever. He
Okay.
puts on his rocket boots and he flips the coin or whatever the theme is, and then he's right there. That's the death trap. That was it. I wanted Batman to have to go through
Like a series of
like an Indiana
puzzles.
Jones and the Last Crusade kind of
Okay.
challenge. I wanted him to have to dodge buzz saws and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's not really. I mean, that's kind of a very unrealistic for this version of the Batman. But I wanted something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the Saw movies.
No, I avoid those.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen them. Um, and that's how for me. I feel like this is more or less what Dark Knight Rises should have been. Um, they did Joker, right, and Two Face and Dark Knight. And for me, it's like, man, the next thing that they should have done was the Riddler, but make the Riddler more realistic, like the Saw movies, because the Saw kind of does like stuff like that as well. He has like games and whatnot that you could try to get out
Hmm.
of his traps, and if you fail the traps, you die.
I'm
Um,
familiar.
all right, and so just that kind of concept, that which is still really gritty and realistic, and it would have worked, I think. Just not go as graphic as the Saw movies, but the same kind of, which they kind of did in this movie. They went about that tone of Saw without getting into the super graphic aspect of it, like the whole rats on the cage, the whole electric collar, um, and so some. I guess those are the really only two examples, but
Yes.
that was very Saw esque, and which about the right level of a Batman movie, right? I'm not saying go full Saw,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
and that's what I felt like how what would have been good in Dark Knight Rises. I was kind of disappointed with Dark Knight Rises, but anyway, let's talk about the Batman. But I really liked the Riddler and the realistic edge of it, and yeah, the costume is kind of like not really anywhere near a Riddler costume, other than he has a like a
I
question
missed the
mark
bowler and the
on
cane.
this like hat. Yeah. But I didn't really mind. That for me is like, okay. I mean, it's fitting the tone of the movie. Like, it wouldn't make sense for him to look like the comic book Riddler or anything like that in this movie. Um, and just the kind of Riddler he was
Unless he
going
was like
for.
super rich.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they were
But I
going
didn't
for
like the
different tones.
interrogation.
So what is it about the
I
interrogation scene that you didn't like?
This is kind of one of the bigger problems of the movie for me. Actually, is a lot of the human element is just a little lacking. I
Okay.
think there could have been a little bit more with the Riddler. It's realistic. It's definitely realistic that this guy
Mhm.
would just kind of grow up and be this pissed off kid.
Mhm.
But in a movie, I think there should have been probably a little bit more of an emotional connection. Maybe something to do something that connected his anger with the plot a little bit more, other than the fact that he's mad that politicians lie, because everyone's mad that politicians lie. But I didn't really feel his I didn't really feel it that much when he was explaining what his life was like growing up in the orphanage. I felt like the writer was trying to strain a little bit to get us to sympathize with him.
Hmm.
and it didn't connect with me.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of. I mean, I've seen it twice now, and that was one of the things I was trying to think about. Was like, what was his exact motive? Like, obviously, he's trying to expose corruption to a degree, um,
Right, and that's relatable, but as an audience
and
member, you don't
but
really
but to
feel
go
it.
to the extent that he was going at, and how did he know? Like, I was
He's
trying to
also
remember.
crazy and super,
Right, right. He's like, yeah, he is
he's hyper
crazy.
intelligent, he's hyper crazy.
And I was trying to remember, and I was trying to think of like, did the movie explain how he knew like all of those very secret kind of details of this corruption that he was exposing? I'm trying to
Oh
remember.
yeah, it's just like he's the Riddler, so we buy it.
Um, it's like what was he before he was
What
the
I did
Riddler?
like, what?
What was he before he was the Riddler that gave him pr- access to all this information? I'm trying to
Right,
remember.
he was just. Did the movie even say? Because I don't know. I
I
thought he
don't
was just like
remember.
his pissed off orphan who grew up.
I feel like it was more to that. I feel like, yeah, I don't know.
Did he have some kind of relation to Bruce Wayne?
No, not Bruce Wayne, I don't think. I think he was in somehow connected to the Renewal Project, which I know as an orphan he was, because the Renewal Project was supposed to help out the orphanage and all that.
Uh,
And
Maybe there's some like subtle part of the
I feel
script
like
that
there
I'm
was
missing
something
out
else.
on.
Yeah, I don't remember. But I guess there's also a book. I don't
I
know if
do.
did you know that there's a book
There's a
for this
novel, like a
movie?
novel.
Yeah, but it's a novel for this movie,
I
but
didn't
it
know that.
takes place before the movie. It's like the backstory for this movie. I haven't read it, but I
That's
know it's
weird.
out
It
there.
should be a graphic novel.
Say again? Oh, graphic novel?
It should probably. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, they made novels for Spider-Man, and I read them, so
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
only read two. I mean, two of them. What I did like about that interrogation scene, the nice little dynamic, is that Batman thought that Riddler had him figured out,
yep.
and I like how, in a sense, neither of them were as smart as the other thought. They were just kind of psyching themselves out,
Yeah.
and that's why Riddler ended up in jail, and Batman came out just kind of accidentally on top. Oh, he doesn't know who I am. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go.
Well, Riddler part of Riddler's plan was to go to jail.
Right. I imagined that he thought Batman was gonna be on his side and break him out. Is
R-
that
well, no,
that's how I thought.
I don't know if he thought Batman was going to break him out, but he definitely thought Batman was on his side. He thought he was doing what Batman was doing, which I like that dynamic because it
Yeah.
really kind of
See,
exposed.
there's lots of little like nice philosophical gems. The way they're portrayed is just so uncinematic. It's just like I feel it's a good script moment, but not necessarily a good movie moment.
Hmm.
It needs to be a little more human for me or
I
something.
I mean,
It's hard for
I
me to
see
put
what
my
you're
finger
saying
on
as far as the human element, like in terms of like their actual interaction. But
it. Mhm.
as far as that reveal that Riddler this whole time thought him and Batman were like doing the same thing and were like working together. I thought that
Mhm.
reveal was great. Um, and for me, that really worked. And then, but yeah, like in the beginning, Batman is there, and the first words that Riddler says, during the interrogation scene is Bruce Wayne. But he says it like super slow,
And he says it all threatening.
and he says it like that. And at first, it's like, is he saying this so that the recording can't quite pick up what he's saying? Is he intentionally like being distorting in how he's saying Bruce Wayne so that
Mhm.
whatever the security camera, whatever, can't quite pick it up, make it out? So like it's his way of revealing to Batman without revealing to everyone quite yet. But what I
Hmm.
like
I
too,
thought he was just saying it like tauntingly.
yeah, maybe kind of that too. But he definitely like drags it out in a way that's like he's distorting. At least that's how I took it, was distorting how he was saying it a little bit. But I really liked Batman's reaction to it, which he doesn't really react. He's like, okay, because he already thinks he knows, like because that's what he figured out
This is it.
in the apartment or whatever it was. Like, oh shoot, he already knows who I am. That's the big reveal. That's what he's gonna reveal, expose. And then he goes there, and that's the first thing he says is his name. But he doesn't. He still maintains that discipline to not react to that, because if he would have reacted, then it would have given it away. And so he's like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna let this play out to see. Like, even though I'm like 99% sure he knows who I am, and he's saying my name right now, but I'm not gonna react. I'm gonna just let this play out, and then it ends up he doesn't know who he is, as far as
It's
we
the only
know.
one we didn't get.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and then you can see the moment after he says that. Again, it's just a lot of his body language, Robert Pattinson's body language, because he doesn't really say anything. He's just there. But you can tell the moment when he realizes, oh, he doesn't know who I am, and which is all communicated just through his body language.
That
Um,
that is a good moment. That's definitely a bright spot in that scene that I otherwise kind of don't like.
um,
I noted that.
and then he reveals that, hey, I'm not with you. Like, you and I are not the same. And then just his whole kind of reaction to that, the Riddler's
Hmm.
reaction. Um,
I
I don't
think I
know.
was a little underwhelmed by the sudden plan too, by the sudden reveal of, oh, I'm going to flood the city. We didn't know anything about that. We
Yeah.
didn't. It was kind of sudden. I
So
mean, you got to have a threat at the end of the movie, and so as an audience, I feel that, but it could have been better set up.
the sun's not doing me favors. Um, yeah, for me that was probably my main complaint, and for me it's not that big of a deal. But it kind of goes into it was kind of long. The movie felt kind of long, and I felt like when Riddler, like it felt like the natural ending point would have been when Riddler got captured, but yet there's this whole other like part still. I remember the first time I saw it, it felt like it dragged. But one, I was holding, like, I had to use the restroom, and it's like I was like holding it. So for me,
First
time
time I
is
was fine. The
already
second
feeling a
time,
lot longer. Right, time is already feeling a lot longer at that point because you're holding it. It's like, okay, it feels like it's wrapping up. I'm gonna hold it. I don't want to miss anything. And then when I heard that there's this whole other plan, it's like, well, I'm going. I got to use the restroom now. It's like I can't wait now.
you
So
made the right decision.
yeah, so it ended up being this whole other part to it. Um, Now, when I saw it my second time, that closer didn't feel as long. It did feel like it kind of wrapped up a little faster. But I do remember the first time I saw it, it's like, oh man, this feels like it's going like beyond it needed to at this point. But yet,
Both times I kind of felt like that.
but yet, I can't. I really like the ending though, in his ending monologue. And the thing is he you can't get to that ending monologue without that last scene. And so it becomes almost necessary from just a film structure standpoint, where he is able to now become this symbol of hope, um like in a very human way. Like, instead of him just saying, I have become a symbol of hope, right? And instead they show it, where he has like
Hmm.
that torch, right? And it's just like that really cool top down scene of him like guiding the
Yeah,
people out, and now they're
yeah, that's
following
good
him. They're
shot.
not afraid of him. They see him as a hero, as someone that's saving them. And then later um on the
The
rooftop,
woman on the stretcher.
yeah, on the stretcher, and it's like holds on to him like, "Oh, I want you, like I feel safe with you," right? Which is opposite than in the beginning of the movie, when he saved the guy, and the guy he saved was afraid of him. And that's him now learning how to still be fear for the bad guys, but still take on the aspect of being a beacon of hope for, the people.
Hmm.
And you can't have that without the ending that they had. Um
It just dragged a little bit.
and so
The
yeah,
first
so
time I was fine, but the second time I really had to pee.
Oh, okay, see, so for me it was
And
reverse. So when I didn't have to, for me, and
yeah,
I
it's
knew it was coming. I knew it was like, okay, there's still like this part coming up, and it for me seeing it the second time, knowing that it was coming, it didn't feel as long as it did the first time I saw it.
mhm.
Um, so
I
yeah,
don't know how. The first time I have the bladder of a chihuahua, so I don't really know how the first time I was fine. But the
okay,
first time I was fine. I got to just enjoy all 3 hours.
okay,
Second time, it really hurt.
yeah.
It wasn't even a pleasant experience when I had to pee. It was just like, come on.
Yeah. Um.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah. So for me, it's like, man, like, but what that still doesn't really solve is like there's this whole other like plot dealing with destroying the seawalls, and you didn't even know that was a
Yeah.
thing that was potentially a threat at all. Like it does come out of nowhere almost. Now, in some
Right.
part, I see that they have to do that because they want, like, hey, getting captured was actually part of his plan, but there's no way for the audience to know that until after it's happened. And the only reason why it would make sense for being captured as part of the plan is if there's still something else. And so that has to be a reveal that
Mhm.
there is a something else. So, like, you don't really want to point to there being something else until after he's been captured because that's part of the reveal of it from a story structure wise.
They could have hinted
But
at it.
yeah, but they still could have foreshadowed it or something to make us aware that yeah, I didn't even know the seawalls was a
They
thing.
could have given us a, oh, that's what that was about moment.
Yeah. So something. I agree
Like,
there should
oh,
have been
why did
something,
he
but I
kill
see
those
why
people?
they were as like they didn't really reveal that there was this plan until afterward. But there should have been
Right.
some kind of foreshadow. I agree. That's probably. But then what we're really saying is the movie should have been a little longer.
I think what they're doing is setting up like I think it's called No Man's Land, a series of Batman comics where
Okay.
I think it's an earthquake actually that separates Gotham that kind of becomes like martial law.
Hmm.
So it makes a little bit more sense that Batman is like this vigilante in there. So
Okay.
maybe that's what they're going for,
Hmm.
but instead of an earthquake, they're using floods to sort of separate Gotham. Um, but that's why they would have to like shove it at the end of the movie because it would set up for the rest of the series wherever they plan to go. And
Hmm.
they obviously plan to go places because they have Joker, they have Penguin, who's like now the head of the crime scene,
Yeah.
which is another good point, I guess, to get to after the Riddler
Yeah.
is talk about the Penguin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really like the pink. Well, before we get talk about the penguin, one of my concerns, beyond Robert Pattinson
Mm.
initially, was how many characters and bad guys there were. Right? Usually, when superhero movies cram in a lot of bad guys, you it usually gets cluttered and not good. um, and
Because you got to
so
divide the plot.
yeah, and so I mean, I'm just thinking like it's like okay, I know Riddler's the bad guy based on the trailer. You have the question mark, but he wasn't really seen in the trailer, so that it's like okay, how much is he really in the movie? I wondered. You saw a lot of Penguin in the trailer, but he ended up not even really being the bad guy, right? Riddler was the
Right.
bad guy, and so which I mean that's good. The trailer doesn't want to expose everything; it's just trying to give you snippets of it and give you a taste for the feel of it and whatnot. So the trailer did what the trailer should have done. But then I knew Catwoman was in it. It's like okay, so we got Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman,
That's
and
right.
then
Carmine Falcone.
yeah, which that wasn't in the trailer, or at least I don't remember Falcone being in the trailer at all. But then eventually you see him in the movie. It's like, man, they got him too, and it's like he ends up being a fairly prominent role. And so I was worried that it was
And
just
then
going to be,
Joker's in there.
yeah. And I think I had heard rumors that Joker was going to be in here, which he really didn't play real any part at all. But I did hear those rumors initially, and I had heard rumors of Harvey Dent as well. Now that ended up not being true at all.
Oh,
Um, right? There is no Harvey Dent in this movie, but I had heard that too. It's like, man, this feels like it's gonna be really cluttered. Like, I don't know about this. But I felt like the balance of what they did with all the characters was perfect. I had no issue with the pacing in terms of um, how the villains interacted. It all very made sense when the Penguin was on screen versus not on screen, and like his involvement in the plot, Falcone's plot,
mhm.
Catwoman's right. None of it felt shoehorned. It felt very
Yeah.
natural for the plot.
All these characters were pretty well balanced
Yeah,
within a 3 hour plot, but yeah,
yeah,
within the
yeah.
entire movie,
But it
all
felt
these
natural. None
characters
of them
were
felt like
pretty well.
shoehorned.
Oh
Like,
no,
oh,
me.
here's Catwoman for
I agree.
Catwoman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. I do have a bit of a problem with that trailer though.
Okay.
The trailer shows us both moments where each of the main villains get subdued. They show us the car flip of the
Yeah.
Penguin, and that's the part in the movie where he stops becoming a threat.
Yeah.
They show Riddler getting arrested in that diner, and then he's out of the movie after that. They show us both parts in the movie where the villains get stopped.
Yeah.
No, there's still a little bit
But you
more,
don't
but
really
I don't like
necessarily
that.
know that in the like watching a trailer. It's only upon after
After the
seeing the
fact,
movie.
even after the fact, it kind of stings a little bit. I don't think I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
suppose.
It's
Now, I will
kind of
say
like
with
the Buddy Happy.
with the whole Riddler thing, see, because that's how the trailer begins, is with the Riddler. Like the
They are
trailer,
trying to throw you off a little
so
bit.
it did throw me off because I was like,
And the trailer makes us think that he already knows that he's Bruce Wayne because he's saying it's Paul Dano saying Bruce Wayne in the trailer, right?
okay, I don't
So
remember
even the
that,
trailer makes us think that he knows he's Bruce Wayne. I think,
but
if I'm remembering
the
correctly.
trailer made me think that the Riddler was gonna get caught up front, like near the beginning. Because
Oh,
that's how the trailer begins. Like just the pace, like the structure of the trailer is
I
the
might have
opening
thought that
scene of the
too. Yeah,
trailer
at one
is
point.
the Riddler being captured. In a sense, like you don't see that he's captured. Well, I guess you kind of do, but you don't really see him. And then it reveals the coffee mug and it has the question mark, and so that's how you put together that it's the Riddler, right? And that's the
Hmm.
beginning of the trailer. Um, and so you just didn't really know the sequence of it. But when I was watching the movie, I did remember that scene. I'm like, wait, we haven't even had that scene yet of the reveal of the question mark in the cup, and that's how I knew like there's still quite a bit here. Um, yeah. Anyway, but let's talk about the Penguin. Um,
um, yeah, okay. I it's got to be. I imagine we both think the same thing that Colin Farrell did an amazing job.
yeah.
I think he did an amazing job.
Had I not known that it's Colin Farrell, I would
Yeah.
have never known. In fact, when I first saw the trailer, I didn't know it was Colin Farrell. I didn't know he had anything in this movie. I didn't know that he
Uh-huh.
was even in the movie
Oh, really?
when I saw the trailer. And
Mhm.
so
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know who that guy was. I mean, I figured he was the Penguin. He kind of looked Penguin-esque at the time,
Uh-huh.
so I kind of guessed that it was the Penguin. I had no idea that it was being
Right.
played by Colin Farrell. And then it wasn't until shortly before I even saw the movie that I was, I don't know, looking up something about the movie, I guess, and saw that Colin Farrell was playing Penguin. I'm like, what? That does not look like him at all. Like it doesn't sound like him. Like you would have no idea unless you just knew. Like unless you read the cast,
Right. Yeah.
Colin Farrell is the Penguin. If
I'm
you,
wondering why didn't why didn't they just get some really good actor who looks like the Penguin?
yeah,
But like, why did they bother with all this stuff? I mean, Colin Farrell's a great actor,
I think
obviously, but
I
I
think
wonder why did they even go in that direction?
I think Colin Farrell
I
really
one thing
wanted
to
it.
point out,
Is
one
yeah,
thing
go
to
ahead.
point out is that Tim Burton made that remake of Dumbo. Danny
Okay,
DeVito and Colin Farrell are both in it.
and isn't Michael Keaton in it too?
Oh, he might be. I don't know. Is
I
he
never
like
saw
a?
it, but I remember seeing the trailer, and I want to
He might be.
say Michael Keaton is in it as well.
If he is, then that just kind of. I mean, I don't know what they're doing there, but they're doing something there.
Yeah. Um, did you see that movie? That Dumbo movie?
No,
Okay, yeah, me
have
neither.
you?
No,
Yeah,
it's on
I'm
Disney
not really
Plus, so
into
I probably could if I wanted to, but I wasn't interested. But yeah,
But yeah, I'm guessing that has something, or maybe like Hollywood was like trying to foreshadow, or I don't know. Actors and filmmakers and creative types like to do weird things like that with their careers, trying to say stuff. I imagine that that was intentional. That Danny DeVito and Colin Farrell were both in a Tim Burton movie, and now Colin Farrell's also the Penguin. But there's really not much to say. He does a great job. What else is there to say?
yeah, no, yeah. So I really liked him, and we already kind of talked about how he was kind of naturally in the movie. So I liked how he was written into the movie.
I
Yeah,
do
and
have that.
I loved just the way he was. I just it's still hard. Like I do not see Colin Farrell at all. Even after knowing it's Colin Farrell, I
Yeah,
don't see it, which is good. It doesn't sound like him. It doesn't act like him. He acts like some Italian, mobster kind of dude. Um,
yeah. He looked. Yeah,
and yeah, it's great. And
which
Um,
is a different take of the Penguin that we've ever had before.
it's as far as the take, it seems a little bit more similar to Gotham, the TV show. Um,
Oh, really? I have he's isn't he like young and
he
thin?
is, yeah. I mean, not in terms of his looks, but in terms of the kind of character that he is, like
Oh,
involved
I'm not familiar.
in yeah, well, just involved with the crime and like being kind of more of a crime boss kind of thing, kind of aspect of the
Oh,
character.
okay.
But anyway, um, and then the car chase between Penguin and Batman, which is kind of shown in the trailer. You know, the
That
conclusion
was
of that
cool.
car chase. I typically don't like car chases. To me, that they are typically boring in movies.
Hmm.
But I really liked this one.
Hello? Yeah? I'm talking to Brandon on like a video chat right now. We're talking about the latest Batman movie.
Yep, and we're live on Facebook.
Oh yeah, and we're live right now.
No,
Um,
we got my kitty cat here.
oh yeah, so uh, uh, did you want to finish that thought? Because I
Oh,
feel
just
exactly the same way.
yeah,
I don't generally like car chases, but I
yeah.
did like this one.
Yeah, it was just well directed, and the whole movie was well directed. Just the camera work and all that. And with this car
Oh yeah.
chase, just how it naturally progressed into the car chase, um, and then when Penguin gets stuck behind the trucks and he sees Batman coming for him, and he like makes this last ditch effort to like kind of knock the truck in, which
He
I'm kind of
bumps into
surprised his
him.
little car was able to do that to a truck. But every time both times I've seen it, it's like okay, I buy it. It makes sense, even though like if I go back and think, I was like, how did a little car do that to a truck? But um, but then the
Maybe
truck,
he's got a gangster steel truck.
yeah,
I don't know.
maybe he
And
has
he knew
really
just
strong,
where to hit that. He knew just where to hit the semi. I don't
yeah,
know.
and it was definitely like even the actor, Colin Farrell, Penguin is. You could tell it's like his last ditch effort. It's like he even plays it like he's not even sure if this is gonna work, but it's like he's got to try
And
something.
he's also happy when he thinks it does.
Yeah, and then you get Batman's point of view of it, of him trying to dodge the chaos that Penguin just created, and how the ramp just like lands right in front of Batman. But just the way how smooth it's insane. It sounds like, oh, it just so happened to land in front. But like in watching it, it's like it was really cool how it just like got there. And it's like, oh, like I don't know. For me, I really like the cinematography aspect of
I'm gonna have to
how
see that
all of
again.
that came together, and suddenly there's this part of that truck becomes the ramp that he's able to ramp over, um and just how all that movement there, not so much the coincidental aspect of it, but just how it all kind of falls into place, and just like it was really cool.
The
So
cinematography of it.
yeah, the cinematography, and yeah, I guess is the best word for it. And of course I did really like the Penguin upside down. It's what's shown in the trailer, but I loved it in the movie still. Of Batman just
Yeah,
walking
yeah, it's a good
to
moment.
him, and just like the music is dramatic. I love the music in the
That
movie. Um,
that is a very Batman moment. I love that.
yeah, yeah. So how he captures them, and and for a movie being really like this was definitely a very like drama superhero movie. A bit of action. It wasn't action packed. There was action sprinkled mostly in
Okay,
the beginning and end, and then a little bit here and there, maybe in the.
good action too.
But yeah, and it was solid action. But this is definitely more of a dark, um, drama crime kind of movie, and I
Hmm.
state that to say Penguin was like really funny, and where there otherwise wasn't a lot of humor, but it didn't take away from it. Like it didn't seem distracting,
Oh
the
yeah,
humor Penguin had. It
because that's
still
his
felt like it
personality.
flowed.
You know
Yeah.
that type.
Yeah, and it didn't,
Hmm.
right. So he wasn't there like for just the comedic relief. Like it didn't feel shoehorned. It felt natural. And even though he was a little bit more funny, especially after he gets captured and talks about El Rata versus La Rata,
Yeah, it sounds like a
and
freaking
it's like, hey, I'm still
bat.
here, like hello, and stuff like that. Like things that were comedic, but it still was comedic in a way that fit the tone of the movie. So I'm just was really
You know what I
impressed.
didn't notice? I
What's that?
watched Chris Stuckman's review of it,
Okay.
and he's all in that scene when they're driving away from him.
Uh-huh.
He's all tied up and he's waddling like a penguin
Huh.
towards them. He's like, "Hey, I'm still tied up." I didn't notice that until he pointed that out.
I didn't notice that
I
either.
think that was the intention.
Okay. I don't remember
So
noticing that
anyway,
either. Okay.
just another little funny thing.
Yeah.
I have two varying complaints about Penguin, but it's not about the character.
Okay.
It's not about the way Colin Farrell or the way he was portrayed. I I wouldn't mind an umbrella gun.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I've seen canes in real life that turn into swords.
Sure.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
You can have an umbrella machine gun, whatever. Do it. It's part of Penguin.
Yeah.
Also, I wish this is a small complaint, but I wish the Iceberg Lounge were a little bit more elegant. It was just too dirty. It's not what I think of when I think of the Iceberg Lounge.
Okay.
I wish it was more a little something a little more closer to what you see in the animated series
Yeah,
cartoon.
yeah. It's a yeah.
I
It's
love
like a
that
little
aspect.
higher class kind of a lounge, which makes sense with the
Right.
penguin because penguin tuxedo, tuxedo suit.
Uh huh.
Tuxedo, high class kind of lounge. Club 33, right?
I like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can.
That's not really this Gotham though. I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And it would kind. Oh, I don't know. I think they could
Like,
have done it because part of the points of the movie was kind of the highbrow being corrupt, right? That's kind of a part of the theme, and
yeah.
that could have.
Well, he didn't exactly own the Iceberg Lounge, did he? It was more like Falcone's place at that time, wasn't it?
I'm not really sure. I'm not really. No, no. I think it's his establishment, and but
Oh,
Falcone's like the crime boss. So like, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Technically, it's probably owned by the Penguin, but everyone knows they work for Falcone, kind of thing.
Right.
So, but I think because he even says like in the beginning when Batman's first investigating the Russian girl, Penguin says something like, "Hey, whatever the patrons do at my establishment, that's their business." Something like that. He says something along
Mhm.
this line.
I'm
So
just a
it's
proprietor.
right. So he's the so that makes it seem he does own it. He's the owner of this establishment. But we all know Falcone's the crime boss. Um,
Mhm.
but speaking of the Iceberg Lounge, for me that was one of the cool things I really liked, and it was either in Chris Stuckman's review or Jeremy John's review. I watched both of those guys fairly frequently, and it's something that they pointed out, but it was something I really picked up on and liked as well, which was the three different times Batman enters that lounge.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very
Uh-huh.
different three different times. The first time, right, he's just Batman, he just beats people up and gets in. All right, and then he talks to
Uh-huh.
Penguin.
He's got to fight his way through.
And then, yeah, then the second time, he's Bruce Wayne, and he's coming, like,
And
more
both times he
sympathetic.
says, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, yeah, there's
And
that.
I like that.
Um, and he's Bruce Wayne, and they take him up, right, and he has a conversation with Falcone. And then the third time is like the mix of Bruce Wayne and Batman, right? Because he's Bruce Wayne. He's not in his Batman suit, but he has the eyeliner
Oh.
on, getting ready to be Batman.
Uh-huh.
And he just sneaks his way in. He like knocks on the door. They like what? And there's no one there. And
Mhm.
he like just kind of sneaks his way in and shuts the other guys out. And then he goes and changes at some point to become Batman. Um, so he's kind of like a half Bruce Wayne, half Batman. But just his three different styles. But what I also appreciated about that wasn't just how he came in three different times, but it actually sets kind of like the frame of the movie. You could kind of map and outline the movie by the three different times he has to go to the Iceberg Lounge, and so if so, just the
Yeah,
structure, it becomes a structure element, which I
I
appreciate.
know what you mean.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
It kind of shows where this character is at these three different points of the movie.
yeah, and it helps
At
you
the
just kind
by
of
the
map
end,
in
he's a
and
little bit more balanced and just a lot more effective.
yeah, and if you could point back to those kind of like mile marks of him going to it, it could kind of remind yourself, okay, what brought him here that time, and that kind of reminds you of what the story was up to that point.
Mm.
And then, okay, the first time he had to go there, well, the story is still early in the movie. The mayor dude just got murdered. He's finding the clues.
He's looking for
Um,
the Russian girl or something.
and you're right, he finds the thumb drive, right? Riddler's a little funny there. Um, and then, which leads him to the Iceberg Lounge the first time. And then The reason why he goes there is the second time is as Bruce Wayne, and that's after. Um, let's see, what? Why does he go there, Bruce Wayne?
It's because he learned something about his parents, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He has to have a dirty
So
past.
it's after. So it's after they capture the Penguin at that point, and he learns about El Rata, and and then he learns that that's a website, and he learns that to do with orphanage, and he goes to the orphanage, and then he sees that the next target is Bruce Wayne, and he calls Alfred, and then it blows up. Or rather, you find out that it had already blown up. He was an hour late by the time he figured all this out,
Oh yeah,
which that was kind of a cool reveal because
I
it's
like that.
showing you as if it's happening at the same time, but then when
Uh
the
huh.
lady answers, like, yeah, this happened an hour ago. Um, and so
Yeah, that was good.
he was like way late. But then after every time one of Riddler's targets gets killed, which at this point he thought Bruce was killed, he releases a video revealing some secret. In this case, it reveals some dark secret between Thomas and Martha Wayne, and that's why
Oh
he
yeah.
goes to Falcone to verify. It's like, is this true? Did you work? Did my father hire you to like kill this reporter dude?
Hmm.
Right, and then it's revealed.
Which is good. I like that. I like that they added it
Yeah, yeah.
a little
It's
bit of
yeah, and
like dimension.
oh, go ahead.
I said what I needed to
Oh,
say.
okay.
I like that it added dimension to his past.
Yeah, yeah. It adds dimension. It makes his parents more human to a degree. Interesting that I had never known, and I don't know if this was true in the comics, that Martha was related to the Arkhams. I This is the
Oh
first I've
yeah,
heard of that. Um, the founding, fathers of the father of the
right.
city. I had no idea. I
Well,
don't know.
Batman's been around since the 30s, so
Yeah, there's so
it,
much
it, it
probably
could
lore.
be occasionally true and occasionally not true,
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, and so
depending
that
on the
brings him
reader.
to Falcone, and that brings him to the Iceberg Lounge the second time, and then the third time is more of the climax of him trying to stop Catwoman from trying to kill Falcone, and it's then at that point he's like learned the real truth of it all from Alfred at that point, and now we're getting into the ending of the movie for the third time. Um, well, kind of the ending because this is now him bringing Falcone out to actually arrest him, actually get him arrested, and then that's when he Falcone gets murdered by the Riddler. So anyway, all that to
Oh
say,
yeah, oh yeah, I
all
forgot
that,
about that.
yeah,
I forgot that he even died.
and then that's when Riddler turns himself in essentially, like because Riddler doesn't actually run away, he just goes to the cafe that's nearby, near the crime scene, so he intentionally got himself captured um, after he killed Falcone. And so anyway, I say all that to say I'm able to kind of recall all of those plot elements by remembering what brought Batman to the Iceberg Lounge each time, and so the Iceberg Lounge now becomes those three visits becomes different like benchmarks of the movie as a structure point. So it's just something I appreciated.
Hmm.
Um,
And I like that they had the Iceberg Lounge at all in this movie,
yeah,
unlike Batman Returns.
yeah, yeah. They didn't
Because
have it at all in Batman Returns, right? Batman Returns, he just
I wasn't even sure if it was going to be in this movie. I figured it would be because it looked like he was fighting in the trailer. It looked like he was fighting in a club,
mm,
and then the penguin's right there. So I figured it was I figured it was the Iceberg Lounge, but I didn't know. But I'm glad it's in there.
um. What'd you think of Alfred?
Uh, Definitely, I like their dynamic. But one of the I guess one of the bigger maybe I should just get into like one of my biggest flaws of the movie.
Okay,
I guess I guess I already said it though. There's a human element lacking in a lot of the dialogue,
yeah,
but they hit the points from a screenwriting perspective. They definitely hit the points because that very first scene with them, I feel like there's a human element lacking in the dialogue in their conversation.
yeah,
It's a little brief. It's a little one note or something.
yeah,
But I really like the moment where he's got that. that kid on screen from his, I don't know if it took a picture or if it's like part of the video, and you see the
Yeah, it's
kid
from his
who's
contact
supposed to be
lens,
an
I think.
orphan. Okay. Oh yeah, that's what's recording everything.
Yeah,
That's how he does the thing with Catwoman. Okay. So it's like a still of the video, and you
right.
see the newly orphaned kid,
Mhm.
and that's right after he snaps at Alfred and says, "You're not my father."
Right.
And then Alfred looks at that kid, the image of
And
the
then he
kid.
kind of realizes where this is coming from.
Yeah, it's like, "You're not my father," but Batman himself is feeling that same uh, paternalism for that kid,
Yeah.
that he's not his father, but Alfred feels the exact same way that Batman feels about that little kid. So that's a really good moment.
Yeah.
It's a really good it's a good moment. It's a good idea. It's a nice little piece to put into the script. I just wish there was more dialogue that made me feel their character a little bit more, made it a little bit more real. I think they needed a little bit more time too, I think.
Yeah, for me that was what I really noticed in this is there wasn't like man, what's his name?
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, Andy Serkis as Alfred. Um
Yeah, he's great.
I thought he did a really good job.
He's great in everything.
But what I did find is like he was barely in it and just they're very minimal interaction between the two. Between Bruce
They hit home. It's
and
just
say again?
they hit home. It's just they're kind of brief. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do like the hospital scene though.
Yeah, and so I do
That's more
when
like what I'm talking about. That's what.
yeah, for me that's when they do have a good moment because it seems like a lot of their moments, especially like the first moment we see them interacting, you get the whole you're not my real dad kind of scene. And it's just like comes off like kind of negative, like okay, what is this relationship they have with each other? Because it's like him kind of lecturing Bruce about, hey, you still have to care about the business side or whatnot, and it's just like it comes off as like not really a caring relationship, like but more of a argumentative relationship. Now it's coming from a place of caring, we understand that, but all we
Mhm.
see initially is kind of a bickering. It's kind of the problem I had with Anakin and Obi-Wan in episode 2, is like almost that whole relationship was just kind of a bickering kind of
We didn't
relationship.
get to see the training.
Yeah, and we
Mhm.
didn't really get to see kind of the mentorship aspect of the relationship. Anyway, but that's episode 2. So, um but that's kind of like here. It's like, okay, that's kind of a strange choice to be the introduction of this relationship for this new Batman. Because, first impressions is kind of what our mind first thinks of is we absorb that a little bit more, and our introduction was kind of this bickery thing. Now, you pointed it out, but I want to touch on that is again, Alfred then like looks at the picture, that still frame of the kid, and again, it's that body language that I really appreciated. Like he doesn't even have to say anything; is he just sees that picture and just the way he expresses himself through his body language is like he understands. He understands why they just had that confrontation the way they did. And it's like, oh, it makes sense. And so then he's like
Mhm.
not holding that against him or anything, and instead he's gonna help him out try to figure out this clue, figure out this puzzle. Which that was nice because Bruce even says like, hey, how'd you get the O's, right? When they're trying to decipher some of the clues. All
Yeah.
right, and so then
Mhm.
you do see
You know,
some
that's
of
just
this.
reminding me a little bit more to appreciate about their relationship.
Yeah, and so there was good aspects. But for me, that would be part of my complaint of the movie was I wish there was a little bit more of the
Right.
relationship in the movie. But like you said,
I want to know a little bit.
the
Yeah, go
hospital
ahead.
scene, where Alfred kind of explains the real truth, not the Falcone truth, but the real truth of the matter of you know
Mhm.
Bruce's parents. I really liked that scene as well because that was really human element to it. Um, and it circles back to
Absolutely.
part of the things like, one of the other things that kind of bugged me initially between the relationship is you get the whole "you're not my real father," and then you get the "you're not even a Wayne" lines, and so he had those kind of
I
lines
don't remember
to
that part.
Alfred. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was later on in the movie. So the first line we get is "You're not my father." Then later on, about halfway in the movie, when he's going to the funeral, it's when Bruce is getting dressed
He's
for the funeral, and he gives him his cuffs. Alfred gives Bruce his cuffs, but
that's
they're
right.
Wayne cuffs. And Bruce is like, "You're not a
Hmm.
Wayne." And then they kind of have again another little tidbit there where Bruce says kind of a snarky remark to Alfred. And so now that's two scenes we've had fairly, and we don't have many scenes. So the majority of the scenes that we've had are these kind of snarky kind of remarks.
Negative.
Yeah, and so for me that just didn't
Hmm.
sit right, and but made me appreciate the hospital scene more, where Bruce and Alfred kind of have a real heart to heart, where Alfred becomes like very transparent and just explaining, who his parents were, who Thomas and Martha Wayne really were in that situation, and then and which contrasts well with how Bruce talked with Falcone, because when Falcone makes it almost seem like it was who's the other mob name? Maroni or something like that.
Yeah. It's not Carmine. Yeah, Maroni. It's Maroni.
Right, and makes it seem like Maroni is the one who had his parents killed, because Maroni felt like the way Falcone, is it Falcone or Falcone?
However you want to say it.
All right, I think I've heard it both ways. But
Yeah.
how
The movie says Falcone, but
okay,
um, The
but
Dark Knight has it
says
Falcone.
okay. Well, anyways, but how right, Falcone makes it seem like Maroni. That doesn't sound right to me. But the other guy,
It is Maroni.
it is Maroney? Okay, I'm gonna take your word
Mhm.
for it. How Maroney um was the one who had his parents killed, because he felt like uh how Thomas would have owed Falcone. Right? He's like, well, I'm gonna just take that out of the option. That's what how Falcone told the story when Bruce went to go talk to him. But then when Bruce goes talks to um
Alfred.
Alfred, Bruce even asked, "Did Falcone have my parents killed?" Which, that's what, based on what Alfred said, that seems like what Alfred is basically saying without saying. And I really liked Alfred's answer to it, which was like, I wish I knew for sure.
Hmm.
It's like, I don't know. We don't have enough evidence to say for sure. It looks like that way to me, but I can't say that with any kind of certainty.
And that's just kind of where it's left off, isn't it?
Yeah, and but which is real, and I like that, and
Mhm.
I like that he didn't like try to make it more than what it was, and yet
And now Falcone's dead.
right. Um, but well, Falcone, I don't think Falcone died until after that though, because I think it's after that that he sneaks back
Well,
in.
yeah, but like he'll never know for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Or
yeah,
did he? Because he had that conversation. Did he go and visit Falcone as Bruce Wayne after that hospital visit? After the hospital scene? I don't remember.
no, no, that was before. That's how he learned the truth. Well,
Oh,
what he
oh,
thought
okay.
was
So
the
he
truth
went
at
to
the
he went
time.
to Falcone, got like a dirty version of the truth,
Right,
and then he went and confronted Alfred about it and got
right.
like the more
The
real
real
version.
truth. Right. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's the pacing of the movie. And then the next time he sees Falcone is when he's Batman again. That's when he
Mhm.
sneaks in as like half Batman, half
Save
Bruce Wayne,
Catwoman.
saves Catwoman, gets Falcone arrested, and then you know, accidentally gets Falcone assassinated, brings him under the light. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so that was one of my complaints, but also likes. Was I liked the Alfred moments. I felt like there were too many negative Alfred Bruce moments compared to the good Alfred Bruce moments. Um, and there just wasn't enough of the Alfred moments.
I think a lot of it is that like they're doing the whole thing where remember how they made this Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and then not long afterward, The Amazing Spider-Man came out. And The Amazing Spider-Man had to like touch on aspects of Spider-Man that the Raimi trilogy didn't do. And they
Yeah,
just kind of had to like they kind of had to work with the fact that they're making this new version of Spider-Man pretty soon
yeah,
after they just did it. So I think that's kind of what's going on here. They don't want to waste too much time. I
yeah,
I'm
maybe.
I'm kind of like going back a little bit on my own complaint. Not, no, I'm just rationalizing it, I
Yeah, just trying
guess.
to understand where they're coming from, and that could be. I mean, we all know the
It's got to
story,
be something like that
but I mean,
because
at the
we've
same
seen the
time,
relationship pretty fleshed out between Christian Bale and Michael Caine.
yeah. But I mean, when
So
did
the
Dark
audience is
Knight
kind of
Rises
used
even?
to that relationship.
But when did Dark Knight Rises come out? I mean, it's been a while.
Oh, you know what? 2012. So I guess it has been like a decade.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's
Eh,
longer than the Spider-Man movies.
I guess you're right because I think there was only like a 6 year gap between Spider-Man movies. 2007 was Spider-Man 3 and 2011. So that was 4 years for Spider-Man. Never mind.
Yeah,
But maybe
2012. Yeah,
that's still kind of what they're going for.
yeah,
That's
maybe.
what ran through my mind when I
Now
watched the movie.
we did have the Ben Affleck Batman in between that time, and with that we had the Ben Affleck Alfred
Jeremy
relationship.
Irons.
Yep, Jeremy Irons, which I enjoyed that, and there's banter there as well. A more fun banter, a friendly fun
Mhm.
banter between the two. In
They didn't have to really develop their relationship because it was
No,
more about other things.
well, he was an
It
experienced
was,
Batman at that point as well, and it wasn't a Batman movie. Like Ben Affleck wasn't in a Batman movie; he was in a more of a Justice League movie.
mhm,
Even Batman
I got
versus
you.
Superman plays more as a Justice League movie than anything else.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, that's what we had in the meantime, in between the Christopher Nolan Batman movies and this the Batman. But we haven't had a Batman movie since Dark Knight Rises.
That's true.
So
And yeah, it was 2012 when that movie came out. I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
so 10 years. Yeah.
So like a decade.
Yep.
But still, I think that's at least what ran through my mind because those I
Okay.
assume those movies are still pretty fresh in people's minds. They were just trying to touch on aspects of Batman that haven't really been. You were having some weird cloud
Yeah, well, it's the
situation over
camera
there.
trying to adjust because I have a sunset happening out my window right now, so it's making this window really bright from this angle.
Uh-huh.
And so the camera is trying to figure out what light to capture and not capture, so that's why it's kind of coming in and out. So yeah, that's
Well,
why I'm kind of dark right now. Yeah,
oh,
now I'm
there
light.
you go.
So,
What were we talking about?
well, Alfred's were what we were talking about.
Oh yeah, the gap between movies.
Yeah.
To go back, so we were talking about Alfred and their relationship
Mhm.
and the dialogue. To go back on like my one of my biggest complaints of the movie is, as I said, there's just a little bit of a lack in the dialogue.
Mm.
Two of my least favorite part aspects of the movie. I don't want to say parts because the first one is during that funeral, which is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
But I can't remember her name. The person who's going to be the mayor, the
Yeah, I
de
don't remember her
facto
name either,
mayor.
but yeah.
She's talking to Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
but it's only her talking. He doesn't say a damn thing. I want more intrigue. I want something more interesting to grasp onto as an audience member,
Mm.
not just her saying these things and me knowing that he's Batman. I want to know what Bruce Wayne has to say about these things.
Well, right, which
And it's supposed
that's
to be like an important-ish part in the movie, and he doesn't say a damn thing. So that's kind of
well,
it's lacking in the dialogue, and it ends up lacking a little bit, and it consequently makes the Bruce Wayne character lack a little bit for me.
right. Right. He was
There's
barely
other
Bruce Wayne in this movie, and when he was Bruce Wayne, he really wasn't Bruce Wayne.
he
Right.
hardly talked.
Um yeah, in fact, he as Bruce Wayne, I could really only think of one, maybe two scenes if you count the hospital scene where Bruce is talking to Alfred. He's Bruce Wayne there technically,
Hmm.
but there he's just him normal real self. Um, the only time I, the only other time I could think of besides the funeral where he doesn't say anything is when he visits Falcone. I can't think of another Bruce Wayne scene.
He's like out of the mask a lot, and he's got the eyeliner on
Yeah,
often.
like in the Batcave and stuff like that. But they're like, I don't count
Yeah,
that
you're
as
right.
like the Bruce Wayne. Like I mean like when he's public Bruce Wayne, like the
Hmm.
persona Bruce Wayne, not because even when he's talking
Yeah,
about
it would have been
Alfred,
nice to see him go to that business meeting and try to keep up and just kind of like flounder or
but
something,
I think that was
just
part
for
of
a
the
quick minute.
point. Like he's not there yet. I think he's gonna get there if they continue on
Hmm.
these series where he's gonna kind
Hmm.
of develop a Bruce Wayne persona. But I think at this point in his life as Batman, and Alfred mentions it in the beginning that he's it's part of their first banter really, where Bruce says like I don't care about any of that. This is all I care about. I'm just Batman. So he doesn't even want to be Bruce Wayne, and that's why he doesn't. And I think when the mayor comes and
That's
talks
true.
to him, he in which if you remember, even before he goes to the funeral, Alfred is surprised that he's like dressing up and he's gonna go out, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, you're actually going out. You're going out." And but Bruce's answer is, "I'm only going out. I'm not even going out as Bruce Wayne. Like I'm going out as Bruce Wayne because I have to be Bruce Wayne. But I'm actually there as undercover Batman to see if the Riddler's here.
If Riddler shows
Right,
up,
and that's the only reason why
yeah,
he's going
it's
to the
Batman
funeral.
business.
So he's not actually even going for a Bruce Wayne reason. He's going for a Batman reason undercover. And so for me, I didn't mind Bruce Wayne not responding to the mayor because the mayor's like coming at him, which for me I felt was kind of inappropriate. It's like here you're trying to talk about if you win the election, which at this point your main competitor just got murdered. You're at that guy's funeral and you're talking about like if you become mayor, like that's kind of distasteful. But yeah, I mean that could be realistic, I suppose. But then she kind of comes at Bruce about it. It's like, hey, you could be doing
He's
more
just
for the
trying to appeal
city,
to,
and I want you to do more
right,
for the city if I become mayor. And Bruce, you could tell, has no interest in it because he's not he in his mind he's
right,
not
yeah.
Bruce Wayne. In
He
his
doesn't,
mind, he's
he doesn't even
Batman.
say anything though.
Well, right, but I think he
Hmm.
doesn't engage because he doesn't know how to engage at this point. In his mind,
Hmm.
he is not Bruce Wayne anymore. In his mind, he is just Batman. And so he doesn't know he hasn't figured out how to put on this other persona yet. But I
I think
think
you're right that that's kind of what the script is trying to have been saying.
yeah,
I just wish maybe in that moment it could have been a little telegraphed more. Maybe we could have seen Batman or Bruce Wayne like try to respond, but he just didn't know what to say or something.
yeah,
Although we know what he would want to say because when she says it looks like you could be doing a lot more, but we know he's Batman.
right,
But
right.
there's
There's
just
kind of
no
an irony there
there's no
too,
dialogue.
but he has no interest in being this philanthropist. I can't even say the word right now.
Philanthropic.
Um, but he has no interest in that kind of persona of having
Hmm.
any kind of Bruce Wayne social life of any kind,
Hmm.
even as a facade. Um, but I think at the end of the movie, he's going to start to realize this. Part of the whole beacon of hope and stuff like that, I think is going to kind of help him be a better Bruce and not just Batman.
Hmm.
Which is one of the things that's one of the things I really liked about this movie. I like this movie a lot, especially for a Batman movie, because I think we actually have
You know where
we have real character development for the main character. Most Batman movies, there isn't. Val Kilmer's Batman tried, which is ironic for how goofy Batman Forever is. Um,
right.
but they did try to have some character development for the Val Kilmer Batman in that movie. They tried. I don't think it worked, but they tried.
Hmm.
Maybe on paper it
It
worked.
got cut. A lot of it
A
got
lot
cut.
of it got cut, right? And so the outcome of the movie, but just the whole tone of the movie wouldn't have worked for that anyway. It was right, like those cut scenes were cut
Right.
because it just did not match the rest of the tone of the movie. That was not a movie to do what they were
You
trying to
still
do.
got Riddler and Two Face hopping
Being
around and making
yeah, being
jokes and
very
stuff.
very goofy who didn't even act like a Riddler and a Two Face. There anyway, we already talked about that before.
And you got the Batmobile climbing up walls and stuff.
And so um but that's the only I mean, and Batman Begins kind of Batman Begins, I don't know. Actually, Batman Begins does have a pretty good Bruce Wayne Batman arc.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I think
does.
it's the best
It
Bruce
does.
Wayne's ever been done. I think the Bruce Wayne aspects of Batman Begins is what makes Batman Begins.
Oh no,
I've
yeah,
always felt
absolutely. I love his, but I mean in terms of like actually having a story, a character development arc for the main character. Most of the other Batman movies don't. Like the Keaton Batman didn't. Like the Keaton Batman at the beginning of the movie is the same Keaton Batman at the end of the movie, right?
that's true.
And same thing with Batman Returns. Um, and again, I don't even count George Clooney, so we're not going to talk about that. And now Christian Bale's Batman, I would say he does have a story arc. Even probably less so in Dark Knight, which happens to be my favorite one, so it's kind of interesting. Um, but where Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises are both very much character development movies for him. It's been a while since I've seen Dark Knight Rises, but I do remember both of those were kind of him learning, having some kind of story arc internally as well.
Hmm.
But anyway, I guess what I'm really getting at though is I really appreciated this Batman story being centered on Batman with the Batman character story arc. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I imagine because you got to have the Bruce Wayne stuff in there, but I imagine they're going to explore Bruce Wayne. Uh, I'm hoping they're going to explore Bruce Wayne more in the next movie a
yeah,
little bit. Um,
yeah, me too.
I don't remember, where does Catwoman end up by the end of this movie? Does she leave,
Yeah,
or
yeah. So that's how the movie ends. So
right? They're at the graveyard and they go in two different directions.
right,
Does she leave Gotham?
that's what she says. She asked Bruce to come with her,
Hmm.
and well, I asked Batman. Does she know? I don't know if she knows. I don't
No, I
remember.
don't think so,
But she asked
because
Batman.
he's there as Batman.
Yeah, yeah. She asked Batman to come with her, and then she realizes, like, no, like you're married to the city, basically. I forget what she says, but it's something like that. And she's like,
Hmm.
there's no convincing you. I know. And so then they
How do
kind
you
of
like?
have. Say again.
I was gonna move on to a next point. I didn't. You can go ahead and finish what
Oh
you were
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say.
So then, and that's basically how the movie ends. Is the two kind of have kind of a romantic motorcycle ride, and then they go their separate ways.
How did you feel about Zoe Kravitz and Catwoman in general in this movie?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought again for all the characters, the main thing I look at for like these kind of main named characters, Penguin, Catwoman, and so forth, is do they naturally fit into the story?
Hmm.
And I felt her character did. I liked her as a character. It was interesting that they made her Falcone's daughter.
Right,
But that I feel like that was necessary to kind of make it make sense for her to be involved with the plot the way she was.
right.
And so I didn't have an issue with that. I thought it was actually an interesting way to make it make sense for her to be connected to how she was. Um, so yeah, I didn't have any particular issues with her. Um, I have, I would say positive, but like
I
neutral
like the way
positive.
she. Yeah, I definitely like the way she portrayed the role, and I definitely like uh, her involvement in the plot. Uh, I don't like the mask, and I wish she had a whip or
She
some kind
had
of weapon, something a little
something.
bit more.
I guess it
What
was
does
just a
she?
rope.
What does she?
Because she
Does she
had
claw
something that she
people?
had whipped up, and she had her nails.
I don't even really remember. As far as the Catwoman representation goes, I feel like it was just a little lacking.
It was.
Um,
It was
Selena
lacking as
Kyle,
Catwoman.
she knocked it out of the park. But as far as the way Catwoman was represented, like visually and
Yeah.
it, I was just barely a little disappointed in the Catwoman parts. And one of the moments at the end when, again, with the human element in the dialogue, I didn't really feel anything when she tried to kill Carmine Falcone. And she told him, "Hey, Maria Kyle was my mother," or
Yeah.
something. I didn't feel it.
Hmm.
It was supposed to be a little bit more. That was supposed to be a much more emotional impact. I feel in the terms of a plot than earlier in the plot. Um, I really feel her emotional connection to this Russian girl who's gone missing.
Hmm.
That was a lot more well handled, mostly just by the way that she was portraying her concern for the character.
Yeah.
But by the end, I just wish there was something a little bit more fleshed out in the dialogue or in the script somehow between the relationship between Carmine Falcone and Selena Kyle. It was
Okay.
just a little lacking, and I didn't
Well,
feel it in the end when
I
she
I
tried
do agree that the Catwoman aspect of her
to.
character was lacking. It didn't really bug me. I didn't really think about it too much. I did note it. It's like, okay, I mean
and
she's not
and
really
I'm wondering why
Catwoman.
she's so good at karate. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
she's not exactly Catwoman. I don't know if they even say Catwoman ever in the movie.
No, no, they don't. I don't think they called her. In fact, I don't even think they called Batman Batman. The only other than Riddler's note to say to the Batman, they call him Vengeance and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
They
remember.
never. I don't.
I'm trying to. I can't remember any parts where someone calls him Batman.
Yeah, I don't. I can't remember anyone actually saying the word Batman. But anyway, yeah, they definitely didn't say that for Catwoman though. And the only reason why it was just like small little things like her ski mask thing, whatever it was, kind of had little cat
Yeah,
ears, kind of. Um,
that
but I
was
mean,
kind of
but it
lazy.
makes sense though because she's like the character wasn't trying to dress up as a cat, right? Like that would be kind of
Yeah, yeah.
like so
You're gonna
just
have him in the movie, make him a little bit more.
um, she had cats.
It was
Batman
fine. I
says you have
didn't
a
hate
lot of
it for
cats,
sure.
so that's so there's that.
You got a lot of cats.
Yeah, you have a lot of cats,
That's
so that's
something. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, actually, yeah, I remembered that. I was thinking about how I was just a little disappointed in her portrayal as like in the way that she was portrayed as
yeah.
Catwoman. Not her job. She did a great job, but the
Yeah,
way
just
that the
how the
script and the
script
movies kind
was
of portrayed her.
as a Catwoman. But I didn't mind it. For
And I
me,
was trying
it
to think of
fit.
like what cat elements were even portrayed. Like what did the movie even try to convey cat like to us? And that was it. The part where Batman says, "You got a lot of cats."
Yeah. Well,
That's all I
I would
can
say
think
two
of.
things because
The
she did
claws.
have like a whip kind of thing. She didn't use it
When?
much. It was a rope or something. Yeah, yeah. There was a point where she was like walking around with it and it circled like how Catwoman had would.
Oh, just before the chase
Yeah, yeah.
when
Before
she's
the
trying to get the
chase.
money from
Yep,
Penguin.
yep. Because
Yeah.
she hits a guy and like pulls him and whatnot, and then the guy's like, "Hey, you okay?" or whatever. Right. It was one of the twins.
Okay,
Um,
that's something.
and then yeah, and then her claws, she scratches Falcone's face with the claws. I mean, I guess that's
Mm,
cat-like,
yeah.
having claws.
I mean,
So yeah,
yeah.
but her
Burglars exist.
the point of her character wasn't to be Catwoman, right? She wasn't trying to she wasn't trying to be cat themed.
Right. I
Like
guess.
Selena Kyle was not trying to be cat themed rather, right? Which is what the script is stating. So for me,
Mhm.
I understood that, and so it didn't bug me that she wasn't really Catwoman. She was just Selena Kyle with that was good at pit locking stuff and
Yeah.
sneaking in
It
places.
didn't bug me that much. I just kind of wish you're gonna make a Batman movie,
Yeah,
go for the representation just a little harder,
yeah.
just a little. But
I
yeah,
don't know. For me,
it
I
definitely
didn't mind.
it doesn't take away from the movie. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
just as a Batman fan, I kind of wish there was a little bit, just a bit clearer of a representation of that character.
Hmm.
But as far as the actor went, and as far as like her role in the plot, everything was fine. Except for that last part where she confronts Carmine Falcone. I
Now,
wish I felt it a little more.
I actually, so I think I disagree a little bit with you, but
On which part?
her confrontation with Falcone,
Mhm.
but not so much. I like that part, but it's actually more from Falcone's side of it that I like, where he
I can
seems
see that.
very like fathering to her, which makes me wonder if he already knew because when she reveals, "Hey, I'm her daughter," it's like I feel like I thought he already knew that. That's why he was like treating you fatherly. Because throughout the movie, even before all this, all the reactions she had with Falcone, he seemed more fatherly to her.
Mhm.
And even when she's like coming up and saying that she's scared that her friend's missing and stuff like that, she's like kind of bringing this to Falcone. Well, the only way that made sense to me is if they already had that existing father daughter ish relationship to any kind of extent.
But didn't they? Before that, before she revealed who her mother was, I thought he already did think of her as a daughter, and
Well,
because they
right.
were.
Well, that's why I'm confused because I thought that, but then after all of that, she seems to be revealing that I am this girl's daughter.
I figured that meant that, hey, you boned this other girl.
Uh-huh.
You thought I came from her, but no, I came from this other girl that you boned, basically. That's kind of what I
Oh.
got. I mean, I could be getting it wrong,
So
but
either
I
way, I am your daughter, just not from the mother who you thought I was.
right, and I don't really know.
I would have to
See that
really pay attention to names as they're saying names to kind of catch on to that because if that's what it was, I did not catch on to that at all.
that was only my guess actually, because I was kind of confused when she said, "Hey, Maria Kyle was my daughter, was my mother." I was
Yeah,
like,
I thought he
did
already
he
knew
not
that.
know that?
Yeah, it's
How do
like
you not know that? How
like
do you
that.
not know who she came out of?
Well,
I mean, maybe
well,
he
and
just wasn't there
but the
because
point.
he's a crime boss.
I mean, I thought the point was in her saying that was I'm the daughter that you abandoned. Like, because that's her big grudge against him. It's like I was taking child
Mhm.
services and you'd said and did nothing, right? That's what she tells Batman. That's her big grudge against him. But
Did he kill
like,
Maria
did
Kyle?
he? But then, but um, maybe I don't remember.
It's a big movie. We're gonna have to watch it again.
I know. I don't remember the aspect of it. But for me, I am, and that's probably why I'm kind of confused on it. But I feel like part of her revelation wasn't just saying that guy, that that person is my mom. The only way that really makes sense as a revelation is to also reveal that I am your daughter. But I feel like he already knew she was his daughter.
Right, me too.
So it's like, are you revealing that you're his daughter? Is that the point of that line? Or does
I
he
was a
already
bit confused,
know? Like,
and maybe that's why I didn't get the emotional connection.
so that's where, so there I could agree with you because I'm confused there. But I really did appreciate the emotional connection, not so much maybe from her to him, which is your complaint, but
Uh,
from him to her.
yeah, now that you put it in those terms, I understand because he was a little bit in those. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, from that angle, it makes a little bit more. It makes a little bit more sense. Looking back, I can feel his emotions in that scene more than hers,
Yeah, yeah, because like she's trying to bring
even
up
though
like
he's the bad guy.
yeah, but like he's like she's like, yeah, I'm worried about my friend, and he seems like concerning. He's trying to like take care of her, trying to whatnot, and like the guy even interrupts. He's like, not now. I'm trying to like take care of her. She's like
Hmm. Trying to
she's
be a
in
good dad.
distress. Yeah, and so he even like sends out his henchmen and all that. And when the henchman interrupts, he reacts angrily for interrupting him trying to be a father. It seems like, and even though she's about to pull a gun on him, but he doesn't know that. And so you have that, and then you have the part where now after she does reveal herself and tries to shoot the guy, and so now he's like trying to like survive from being attacked by his daughter. And eventually he gets the upper hand and is about to kill her. And but like he even says like, look what you're making me do to my own flesh and blood. I mean, you can feel like it, even though he's doing something bad. You can tell there is a legitimate pain that he's emotionally having for having to have to do this in his mind. Now, obviously, it's not.
I guess you're right. Yeah, because I do feel that. Looking back on that part of the movie, I do feel that. I just I guess I want to understand her motives a little bit more, her
Yeah,
emotions,
yeah. Now that you
because
say it's like,
Catwoman is a bigger character to me than Carmine Falcone,
yeah, 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 yeah,
or is
absolutely,
supposed to be. But in this movie, everything's kind of mellowed out. Everything's kind of
right.
given a dose of reality.
Right. Even more so than the Nolan movies, which that was like the big thing about the Nolan movies was that it was like a
Yeah,
little bit more grounded, more realistic. And it still is like, and it's, I mean,
it
it's,
struck a good balance. The Nolan
yeah,
movie struck a great balance.
it does. But this one, it's still great, but it still has a strong comic book flavor about it. Just kind of more of
Hmm.
like a Sin City kind of comic book, like more of a very dark, gritty comic book. Um, But it's this for me. It still had a like, especially the opening title, like the Batman. It takes up the whole screen.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know. And a lot of the cinematography in this was very. It still felt. some of it was framed like a comic book frame.
Mm.
Um, like I mean, the main one I would think of is just Batman holding the torch out of the water, and it's that down view perspective. But there's a lot of little things like that. Just the way things were revealed and shown, the camera work aspect of it still gave it a kind of a comic book. Well, more of a graphic novel, right? If we're going to distinguish the difference between a comic book and a graphic novel, it definitely had kind of a graphic novel a way of portraying things, I think,
Mm.
in terms of like camera framing and stuff like that.
What would you say is the difference between comic book and graphic novel
Um,
in your
yeah,
less
that'd be hard to
cartoony?
define, but like I don't know, like Sin City and V for Vendetta, where it's like a little bit more grounded and a little bit more dark. I mean, I guess it's not
Mm.
true for all, but I don't know.
I know what you're saying because this it feels a lot more like a thriller, like a crime
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
than it does a superhero movie.
it does.
Even though you got this guy running around in big black ears,
Right.
but yeah, which actually kind of makes I have never really noticed how comical or how not comical, but how out of place the ears are
Yeah,
in any Batman movie before,
yeah,
except for this one,
yeah,
which probably means that they were striking such a realistic tone.
yeah. But I liked it. I really did like the tone of it and the realism of it.
Mhm.
I really like his relationship with the cops and Gordon.
Oh
We haven't even
yeah,
talked about Gordon, but I really like
yeah.
Gordon in this movie.
This might be my favorite portrayal of Gordon, but that's a little unfair because they gave him a lot of like
Well,
he's basically the second super. He's basically Robin in this movie.
yeah, yeah.
Basically
But I don't
Superman.
know. I really like Gary Oldman's
Me too.
Gordon as
Yeah,
well.
it's hard
So
to say.
that'd be hard to say that if he's my favorite. But I definitely like I mean, I definitely do enjoy the relationship. He's definitely a better
I would say
Gordon.
actually that this is my favorite portrayal of Gordon.
Say again?
It's very close, but
Yeah,
it's because Gary Oldman is because it's Gary Oldman,
yeah,
but this one is just so fleshed out and it's so much more of a character this time around. Gary Oldman's Jim Gordon was oh shit, I took something off my laptop.
no,
Gary Oldman's Jim Gordon was yeah, I mean he was definitely a character, but he was a little bit more of a plot device in the other ones, I would say. But this one you definitely get a lot more
yeah. I
humor.
really, really like the relationship between the two in this one, Gordon
Right.
and
Whole
Batman.
year one sort of
Yeah,
relationship that they're
yeah,
going
and
for.
how like all the cops are still like distrusting of Batman, or and
That's
even
great.
like why is he even here? Like this is a crime scene. You can't just have like random people here. It's like really,
That's
Gordon?
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I
My
loved all
favorite
of that.
scene is when he's captured and they try to take the cops are trying to take off his mask
Yeah,
in the in the police station and he has to punch
yeah,
Gordon and escape. That whole thing is my that's probably my favorite part in the movie.
yeah, yeah. I
I
really
as
liked all
far
that
as
too.
I really one of my favorite parts in the movie is when Gordon even is trying to like settle everything down and he's getting on Batman's case in that interrogation room
Yeah,
too and Batman's like you too. I really like that delivery of the line.
yeah,
I felt it. And he's just a really good actor and I love that. I like that relationship. And I like
yeah,
how he had to knock him out to get out of there and I love the escape that followed. I love the shot where he has to have that grappling hook up
yeah,
into his hand and then he squeezes it and then he flies up. That's one of my favorite parts.
yeah. That was a good part. Um, yeah, yeah. I love that whole sequence as well.
That's my favorite
I
scene.
like Gordon's kind of rebuke to Batman. It's like, hey, this isn't the way. This isn't the way to do this. Like you're out of line, Batman. Um, before like when all the cops are getting on, he's like
Because
punching
he's
cops as
knocking,
well.
because he's punching.
Right, and he like gets his arm on Batman as well. He gets the cops off of Batman. And he separates Batman away from the cops, and he's like kind of rebuking Batman. And he's like, look, like this isn't what you want. This
Mhm.
isn't what you want. And he's right. Like Gordon's right. Um, and so the fact that he could kind of have that relationship with Batman, um, and where he could even rebuke and correct Batman.
Yeah,
Um,
that's. Did we get any of that with Gary Oldman?
no, no, because Batman did everything right.
Sorta, didn't he? I'm trying to think. Was there any moment where Gary Oldman was like, "Hey, man, you can't do this," or something like that?
No, not that I can remember.
I'm trying to think. But yeah, yeah. There's
Um,
there's almost no struggle
yeah,
in the very
yeah, there
beginning
were.
when he holds the stapler up to.
Yeah, that's
to
about it. Where he first kind of introduces himself to Gordon. He's like, "Hey, you're one of the good cops. So what would it take to get Falcone?" I guess that's a different Falcone, right? Um,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
yeah. It
Pretty
was
sure it's
Carmine
Falcone
Falcone.
though. Yeah. It's like, what would it take to get him behind bars and stuff like that, right? He's kind of like letting him know, like, I'm gonna do something. I know it's like, vigilante and whatnot. Yeah, but that's the only time there's really any kind of tension or conflict between the two is when that, as far as I can think.
There is one moment in The Dark Knight where Joker pisses off Batman and he has to put the chair up to the door to the
Okay,
interrogation.
kind of. Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
one moment though.
Was Gordon there?
Yeah, he was like, he's in control. He's reminding everyone that he's in control.
Okay.
And then he I don't remember. He grabs him over the table, I think, and at that point he
Well, it's the
starts
whole
socking him.
"Where's Rachel" thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that scene.
yeah. Yeah, but we don't actually see him confront Batman after that or anything like that.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
see him kind of try to stop Batman, but he can't even get through the door. So there's no real like face to face interaction of that. We know he doesn't like what Batman's doing in that moment,
Mhm.
and Batman's doing it anyway, but there's no real confrontation between Gordon and Batman in that scene or even after. But
Right,
anyway,
it's just right back to dealing with whatever the fuck Joker's doing.
yeah, yeah, and it's
Trying to stop him.
well, it's because they're on a time crunch too. I mean, it makes sense in the movie. The
Yeah.
way the movie flows is bombs are about to go off, someone's about to die. Is it going to be Harvey or is it going to be Rachel, right? And
Mhm.
it's like,
So
okay,
there's an urgency there.
right, there's an
But
urgency to where
still,
they can't even address this.
mhm, yeah. So that dynamic is, uh, I don't want to say lacking because you don't really feel that it's lacking, but it's just
Right,
something that I appreciate that they touched on in this movie,
right.
Batman.
And it's Batman's what I like about this one is it's Batman still learning what it means to be Batman,
Hmm.
which is kind of the whole point of the whole movie at the end of it too.
Yeah,
It's him like because part of it is like it's been 2 years and if anything things have just gotten worse. Why is this still
and crime is
like
up. Yeah.
why is this happening? Like I've been what am I doing? What am I doing wrong here? Right? So that's part of the overarching theme of the whole movie is Batman learning how to be a better Batman and what it even means to be Batman. And this was just one of those moments where Gordon is kind of teaching him an aspect of that. Um, shoot, there was something else I wanted to hit up on.
Did it have to do with the interrogation
No.
scene
Oh,
or
one of my favorite. So you're mentioning your favorite scenes. So you said this interrogations or this
the
not
funeral,
interrogation
the
scene.
interrogation, and then the escape afterward? That's probably my favorite stretch.
Okay.
And then I kind of liked where Catwoman had the things in her eyes, and she was kind of doing they were kind of doing detective work together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Part.
Yeah, and
But
then that's when the district attorney like catches his attention on her and whatnot. Yeah.
mhm,
Um.
I would say those are my favorite parts in the movie. Would Do you have a favorite part?
So
Favorite
my two
scene?
favorite parts were happen to both be in the trailer.
Oh, okay.
Um. At least it's what I first think of right now. I might have other favorite parts too, but almost all my favorite parts were what in the trailer, coincidentally. But like, um, Batman walking to the Penguin when Penguin's upside down in the car crash right after the crash scene. The car chase scene. So Batman
Mm,
like walking toward I don't know, just like that. Um, so when Batman infiltrates Falcone the third time, right, Iceberg Lounge the third time, and that's when he sneaks in, he cuts the power, then he changes into Batman, and then he goes into the elevator and it's the hallway scene where they're
oh,
shooting and
that's
it's
okay.
dark. It's like you can't see. The only time you see is when they shoot the guns, and it's
Hmm.
and and it's just that
Yeah,
fight
that's a
scene.
good fight.
It kind of reminded me of the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One. Just the hallway. It's kind of a
This
hallway
is this
scene. It's
big imposing
dark.
black character with a cape who's knocking
Yeah,
down people in a
yeah.
hallway.
Where like their efforts are meaningless, and he's just kind of powering through them, and it's just
Well, not
the
exactly though, because you see him like recoil when he gets shot and stuff. So
yeah, a little
it's never
bit,
just
but it comes off as more of they're trying to do stuff, and he's just beating the crap out of them.
yeah. But I still like that he takes shots and punches. I'm just
Yeah,
pointing that out.
yeah. So I like that scene quite a bit. Um, those are probably my favorite like two like single scenes.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, you know what? I would include the hospital scene. I would also include the hospital scene
yeah,
in my favorite scenes. The ones I mentioned plus the hospital scene. The chase is pretty good too. I
yeah,
really don't like chase scenes, but
yeah.
I'm with you. The one in the Dark Knight is pretty good too, with the Joker.
Yeah. I do like the one in Dark Knight as well. I barely even consider that a chase scene. I don't know why. Technically, it is, but
Well, yeah,
in my mind,
it's
I
hard.
never even considered it a
They're
chase
not
scene.
exactly chasing them; they're shooting at them. They're
Yeah,
going the same
it's more
speed
of
at
an
the same
action
time.
scene. Yeah, because then it ends with Batman like coming at him with his motorcycle. If I remember, I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
the ending of that scene. Um, but for me, it's just like a lot of like just kind of those single moments too, like the shot of Batman holding the torch.
Hmm.
I've
This
mentioned that
movie is
several
really
times.
good, actually, at having a lot of those isolated single moments.
Yeah.
That's one of this movie's biggest strengths.
Um,
It's odd, as oddly phrased as that is, but um,
yeah, just
the script's
the way things were shot. The very I do like the beginning of the movie, both the murder, the
hmm
Riddler murder, and then the opening uh like the dialogue of Batman kind of narrating, and just
hmm
all the scenes that we're seeing all of him being the shadows, and then which eventually concludes with the fight, the first main fight scene of Batman beating up at the subway. I like all of that.
yeah, me too.
The whole
Oh yeah,
introduction
that's
is probably
absolutely right.
like strong. Which then, like he beats them all up, and then he sees the bat signal, which is due to the murder. The reason why Gordon has the bat signal on connects to the opening shot of the movie, which is the murder. So you get the murder, then you get Batman's dialogue and beating up guys. The bat signal's on, which we've seen it's on, and he even kind of narrates how it's a symbol and a warning to the bad guys that he's kind of on the prowl. But it's actually on for a plot reason. It's not just on for the sake of that scene. It's actually
Yeah,
on because it's actually connecting to the murder that happened in the very beginning of the movie.
he's talking over it while it's like shining in the sky, and we're seeing all the different parts of the city where different criminals are being
Right.
intimidated by it. And then, yeah, okay.
But it's not
I'm
on.
realizing that I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because the movie's a little bit fresher in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
just saw it
saw it
2
a few
days
weeks
ago.
ago,
Yeah.
but I did see
Um,
it twice.
but all of that, and then the very next scene after that is him with Gordon, but you don't see Batman. You know it's Batman with Gordon, but you're seeing it from the perspective of Batman, so you don't actually see
Oh,
Batman. And
uh-huh,
all you see is the cops' reactions of looking at Batman following Gordon to the crime
uh-huh.
scene, but you don't actually see Batman there. But I love that scene
I'm
of
gonna pay attention to that next time.
just the cops just like looking at Batman as Batman's
The
walking.
way the way the cops are so apprehensive of Batman in this movie is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah,
I
which
like how he has to kind of earn their trust
yeah,
rather than he just kind of starts out killing the Joker and getting their trust.
yeah, yeah. So no, I really
Is there
liked it.
anything is there anything else to talk about? We might have touched on everything
I think so.
almost. I feel like there's something I forgot to mention, but it is a 3 hour movie. Oh, the deleted scene.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Joker at all. I know a lot of people
Okay,
have
yeah, Joe Turtle.
issues with just that random conversation between Riddler and Joker.
At
I
the
didn't
end.
mind. Yeah, I know a lot of people
I
have
didn't
kind of.
hate
You didn't like it?
I didn't hate it, but I remember watching the movie and getting to that part, and I was like, the quality kind of took a small dip here.
It did seem like it was an
It
add-on.
didn't really huh?
Yeah, it felt
What?
like it was a kind of an add-on, like maybe something that was filmed in
Yeah.
post-production.
Yeah, I actually I I don't know if it was the Jeremy Jahns Batman review or if it was just that scene. I think I just watched the Jeremy Jahns deleted scene, and he floated the idea that they cut that scene
Mm.
for the sake of the time, and that they reshot a shorter Joker scene to just
Oh,
kind of like shoehorn in at the end of the movie.
yeah.
And it kind of feels like that. I don't know if that's what
Maybe.
I would feel. I think it would be strange if if the studio was like, your movie's too long, cut a scene,
Hmm.
and the director's like, okay, I'll cut my Joker scene. The studio would be like, no, don't cut the Joker scene. What are you talking about? He's our cash
Well,
cow. Don't
it
do
didn't
that.
really play a lot to the role though, right?
It
Like
is a very side. It is very like that if that scene were in the movie, I could see how it would be very much a detour. I can see. I don't miss as far as the plot goes. That scene doesn't really need to be in the movie.
yeah, all it what it does do is it helps set the setting a little bit because the narration is we're told that it's been 2 years or whatever. So we know he's been Batman for a while. So what that scene does offer us is show that the past efforts and the past work of Batman, because he had
Hmm.
previously something else had happened before this movie took place, where he captured this guy.
Right.
We
That's
don't
true.
really know what
Okay.
that is, but what it shows is like this isn't Batman's first rodeo. It's just in his he's still new, but there
Hmm.
was stuff going on beforehand, so it kind of establishes that. I'm trying to remember what is even stated in that scene because he has a conversation with
He wants
Joker,
Joker's perspective on on Riddler's. He wants to know. He wants to get into his mind and see where he's coming from. And
right?
Joker tells him, um, what does he say? He says something like, this is really personal for him, or this is really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, I remember that now.
He does offer some kind of insight, um, and he also picks up on the fact that I think this is what he's saying. I don't. At the end, he's taunting Batman by saying, "You think he deserved it, or you think he deserves it." I don't know if he's talking about you think the
Oh,
Riddler's kind of right, or you
you're
think
right.
Mitchell deserved to die. Do you
Yeah,
know? Can
I
you?
mean, it's been a while since I've seen the deleted scene, but as I'm remembering it now, it's more about, in a sense, that Mitchell deserved to die, but not necessarily to that great extent. Probably more of like, um, is Riddler really wrong?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
maybe, like obviously, murder is wrong. Batman's
Right.
not going to agree to the full methodology that Riddler's doing, but does part of Batman kind of agree with the general message that Riddler
Hmm.
is getting at?
And Joker is picking up on the fact that Batman kind of does ish agree
Right.
with it.
Yeah, I think so. Which then gets underneath Batman's skin a little bit, as I recall how that scene kind of ends.
Mhm. I I don't know if this was the intention, and I might be looking too far into it, but I like how early on in that scene, if you watch it again, there's a moment where Batman's just sitting there looking at Joker, and
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of got like a Mona Lisa smile going on. Batman
Bat-
doesn't smile, but
Batman
he's
does.
Batman, yeah,
Hmm.
at the Joker, and you can. My impression is that he's just very mildly amused by this Joker guy. He
Hmm.
overwhelmingly hates him, but there is sort of like a connection between them, and he kind of likes he kind of thinks he's funny. That's kind of the impression I got. Maybe you might get a different impression, but I thought they were trying to show that he had a bit of a smile.
I would have to watch it again. I don't remember noting that. I don't remember seeing that. I'd have to go back and watch it again. Oh,
Yeah.
um, I did remember another little part, very, very
Mm.
small and insignificant, really, but it was something I enjoyed, which is when Riddler's plan is coming to fruition and the bombs are blowing up, and you see Riddler looking out the window, and he's just like loving it, loving hearing the bombs, and he's like even kind of like saying boom as the explosions happen. I don't know.
Mm.
I just remembered I really like that little scene too, just the way he was.
He's a good I don't know much about him, but
Yeah.
I think he's a good actor. I as far as I know, this is the only movie I've seen him in. I've heard his name before, that's for sure. But as far as I know, this is the
I've
only
heard
movie I've seen him
other people talk about him. I don't think I've ever seen him in another movie, but I've heard as I've watched other reviews on this movie, and and whatnot. They've mentioned that he was good in these other movies. I don't think I had seen them.
I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but um, my peak choice for the Riddler, it's too late now, but Niles Crane from Frasier,
Okay,
David
that
Hyde
that'd be
Pierce is the
he'd
actor's
be
name,
very much like the Batman animated Riddler.
which is a very accurate version of
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
Riddler.
yeah. Then that's but I could see him. I could see him being very play like the Batman animated version of Riddler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The guy that they got is kind of like a modern version of that, kind of like a intellectual, fair-haired, kind
mm,
of unassuming face,
yeah,
kind of like the millennial version of Niles Crane, I guess. Um, so I like who they got, but my peak choice would have been David Hyde Pierce back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
I think they were going to go with Robin Williams at one point if it was going to be Tim Burton.
I think you're right. I think I remember hearing that, which I don't know why, because like Riddler's not a comedian. He's not funny, but the main kind of
Yeah,
actors they were looking for were comedians. Like, no, it's riddles, not jokes. Those are different.
yeah. Wouldn't you? It's strange that they never hire comedians for the Joker. They always get like thespians for the Joker
Yeah,
or someone really charismatic like Jack Nicholson. I mean, he's a thespian too, technically. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But like Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger, those people are like more the thespians,
yeah,
and they get like the top tier kind of actors usually to play Joker rather than a comedian. Where Jim Carrey is kind of like maybe not the best choice for a Joker, but an obvious decent choice for a Joker.
yeah.
Probably,
He would be a more chaotic Joker.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely, yeah.
kind of. Yeah, I mean that he it would be a very like Heath Ledger's Joker was fairly about chaos and whatnot, but it was still he was still serious, like which is funny because this line is why so serious. But that Joker was kind of a serious Joker.
He was all over the
He
place.
wasn't like a joking. Um, only very few times did he have any kind of humor about him that I could think of, like his magic trick. Um,
I I love that scene when he
yeah.
goes and proposes to the that's my favorite scene in the movie where he
Oh, okay.
says, "Give me half your money and I'll kill Batman."
Hmm.
I love that scene.
Okay. Um, it's been a while since I watched Batman Begins last night. It's been a while since I've watched the Nolan movies. I planned on rewatching them.
Earlier today, I watched
Hello.
World's Finest, so that's sort of
Okay.
Batman
Have you watched?
related.
Now we're kind of going beyond the Batman. Have you watched any of the Batman animated movies like Under the Red
Uh,
Hood, Death in the
I've
Family?
only seen Mask of the Phantasm.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
only
they've
seen Mask.
so that's a unique Mask of Phantasm is connects with the animated series and is its
Okay.
own unique storyline, but it's the same actors who are in the animated.
Right.
It's basically a movie of the animated series, its own
Yeah,
plot and
it was
everything.
released in theaters
It
a long
was,
time
it
ago.
was.
It did terribly, but
Um,
I think
yeah, I don't. As far as movies go, yeah, I mean, as far as like box office, but as far as critics, I believe it did pretty well. It's usually
I
considered
think
one of
it's
the better
fine.
movies.
Most people think it's like one of the best Batman movies. I think
Yeah.
it's just okay.
Um, but they've DC has been making a lot of Batman movies. Not they don't go to the theaters, it's like straight to DVD, but
I've seen some fight scenes,
they're basically adaptations of some of the major comic books, like Death in the
like Hush.
Family. Hush is one. I haven't seen the Hush one, but they do have a Hush movie. They do have The Long Halloween. They
Mm.
have
Oh, really?
Death in the Family, Under the Red Hood, um,
Killing Joke.
The Killing Joke. Right. So they have all of those in a movie format.
Is it Kevin Conroy?
No, no, no. Yeah.
Is it anyone? Is it like Ron Perlman or something? Is it someone
I'd have to
famous?
look. It's different. It's per
I think
movie,
I've seen that Ron
but
Perlman
there are
voice
some.
Hush.
Yeah, they're different per movie.
Okay.
but they're pretty good.
I've seen some fight scenes off of YouTube. I just like Batman versus Croc. I haven't seen that, so I look it up, and I think I'm seeing some scenes from the movies that you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty good.
Um,
Um,
I don't know if it's something we want to do, but do you want to get into which villains you would want to see in the next the Batman movie,
oh, in the
or
next
would
one,
you
okay.
rather just kind of like leave that untouched?
Well, I think that could be a good closing comment. Did you have anything more to say about the movie itself? I think
Not that
I,
I can think of,
okay.
other than where I wish it would go. I really like. I wasn't expecting to appreciate the use of a Nirvana song or like any kind of like
Yeah,
popular
that is kind
music,
of interesting, huh?
but it got stuck in my head afterward, and I started like listening to it and everything.
Yeah,
It's odd choice for a Batman movie, but it really worked,
it did.
especially for the visuals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I like the way this movie. I really like the way this movie looks.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if we really talked about.
Well,
I
that's
think you
kind of
did.
what I
I
meant by
said,
like camera work and the framing and just kind of stuff like that. Like
mhm.
that's
Yeah,
kind
that
of what
that
I
was
meant.
all good too. Uh-huh.
Well, I connect all of that with visuals and all of that. Like I kind of
The
connect
camera
all of
work
that
is
together.
especially good in Batman's escape scene from the police station. I would say
Yeah.
I really like that part. Um, I mean, obviously that part, but the way that it was shot. I actually watched a video where the director talked about um how they did everything. That I think there's like a literal GoPro on him, and that's what it was filmed with when he's flying. I don't know if he's actually flying. He's probably not actually flying or anything.
Oh, they
Um,
might be pulling them up or pulling someone up.
right, he might be on strings, but I don't really know if I don't know how much of the GoPro is actually like filming or not. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah. Um, I like the way the movie was shot, and I like the way the movie looks, and I like the way the Gotham is portrayed.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Batman Begins. Remember, I think it's called the Downs, or like what is it called? Uh, the section of Gotham that Ra's al Ghul is attacking at the end of the movie, like the Downs or something. You know what I'm saying?
I know what
Remember?
you're saying, but I don't remember what it's called.
Well, anyway, it's like an entire Gotham that looks like that, and I
Yeah.
kind of like that look.
Yeah.
When the rest of Gotham in the Nolan series looks like this clean, real life city like Chicago or Pittsburgh, which is
Right.
where they shot them. But in this movie, I appreciate the way that Gotham looks.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too.
So I
Okay.
guess I exhausted that.
um. Yeah. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about and bring up. Um. But
Hopes for the
I
future?
really like the movie, and it's definitely up there in my
Oh,
favorite Batman movies.
no, I think we still have one thing to talk about.
Oh, okay.
What about the final fight scene, the climax, the actual fight? That's a pretty big part of the
Yeah.
movie. We didn't even
So
touch on.
after Riddler's arrested,
Hmm.
so again,
And the
so for
floods,
me,
and then he has to go and
yeah.
save the
So
mayor from getting shot.
we kind of talked about it. We just didn't go in depth. Um, for me, for the last scene, so I appreciated your comment because I hadn't really thought about it in that way, where you said, um, they captured the bad guy, and the whole climax is no longer about the direct conflict between Batman and the bad guy, but rather Batman and the bad guy's plot, the bad guy's plan, and that's what
Hmm.
he has to still confront. And that is a bold. I hadn't thought about it in those terms, where the actual bad guy has been resolved, and now, but he still has to deal the with the rest
The
of it,
things that he's done.
and that's still a big chunk of
Yeah.
the movie at the end, where a normal, typical superhero movie, the main ending conflict is the bad guy against against the hero.
Hmm.
So that is
More
interesting.
realistic.
So I hadn't thought about it in those terms before. For me, that is about where the movie kind of drags a little bit, and it's like, really,
Yeah.
there's this whole other like part. Um, and as we kind of mentioned already, like the whole idea of the seawalls, even being a thing first of all, and then being a danger, um, at all, um, does seem kind of come out of nowhere. It does feel kind of add on. I don't think it is add-on though because of the way the movie ends after all of that, like the resolution of it. So I like his fight scene, all right, like
Yeah,
on the rafters and all that. It's okay. What I do like is when he unmasks the guy. I think he unmasks him, and he says like he's vengeance or something like that. Like he kind of uses Batman's line,
that's a good moment.
and that's part of I think between that and Riddler thinking, and this is what I appreciate about the plot of the movie, which is see Batman was is doing this vigilante stuff to stop crime and fight, right? And part of what he's doing is, as he mentions in the opening dialogue, is it's casting fear across the city that he wants to use against the crime, right? And like I
Mm,
am the shadow, right? No one knows where
shadows,
he
yeah.
is, right? So using that element to it. But in that same opening dialogue, I believe it's in the opening dialogue where he mentions that it's been 2 years and he kind of questions why things haven't gotten any better. If anything, things have gotten worse, right? And he doesn't know why. For him, he's kind of baffled,
Oh, but he
and
gets his answer by the end of the
he has
movie.
the answer because the reason why nothing's gotten better is because what he's been doing while fighting crime, but it's been inspiring crime as well because he inspired Riddler. The reason why because Riddler even says the whole reason why he got inspired to do what he did was because of Batman. That's how Batman's even
I
part of
missed that.
this.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And
That
so
makes me appreciate the movie a little more.
so that's why nothing's been changing. Yeah, he's been fighting crime, but he's also been inspiring this the Riddler and all these people who joined Riddler because they think they're vengeance. They're thinking the same thing Batman's thinking, but they're doing it in a different way, in a
Hmm.
worse way. Both are technically illegal, but they're doing straight up murder.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Right. Yeah,
but
those
both
guys
of
are
their
trying to shoot the mayor. He's trying to stop.
right, and but both of their motivations are the same, and that's what he realized. He's like, I got to be something more than vengeance. Um, and that's where he learns why he's been ineffective overall as Batman is because he's actually been inspiring. And so I think he makes that connection when he's kind of surprised that Riddler thought they were on the same team. Because even Batman's surprised. He's like, I'm not with you. What on earth are you talking about? Right? So
Mhm.
Batman's confused by that. And then Riddler gets confused that Batman's not on his side and he has his breakdown. So that's the first indicator, which then is quickly followed by Batman beating up all those thugs, and then the guy saying that he's vengeance using Batman's line, and that's when I think when he really begins to understand where his whole fear concept by itself, this vengeance concept by itself, is not going to be doing what he wants it to do. And
Yeah.
so that's what I appreciate about the
Yeah, I
ending.
didn't think. Uh-huh.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
didn't think of it in those terms necessarily before. Like I knew that he came to a realization, like some kind of um epiphany after the whole I'm vengeance guy coming from that whole Riddler QAnon sorted guy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But realizing that he basically gets his answer to what am I doing wrong
Mm-hmm.
by the end of the movie. That makes
Right.
I'm glad we talked about the climax. Now I appreciate the movie a little more.
Yeah.
I like looking at it from that.
So
I just didn't quite piece those two together
yeah.
so
Well, it's a
solidly
long
before you
movie.
made
You have to remember
it.
something from 3 hours ago by the time you get to that.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
did see it twice, but it was like I think it's been like 4 weeks at this point.
okay.
Maybe less.
So so I appreciate what the ending achieves,
Yeah.
but
Just dragged.
yeah, but still the whole aspect that the whole like blowing up the seawalls, even though I do like Riddler's reaction to the blowing up the seawalls, but just the fact that there's just this whole other plot element that otherwise wasn't even foreshadowed at all or anything, just seems like it comes out of nowhere. That kind of bugs me, and which makes it feel like it drags because it just feels like it's added on. But I really do appreciate the end result of it all,
You know.
which makes it connect
It's an
back to the beginning.
it's an oddly cobbled together movie, but it works overall. It's
Yeah.
just the structure is a little unconventional, especially for how long it is.
Well, I would say it's only unconventional at the end. Up until the point to catch Riddler, I felt the pacing and everything was right on point. For me, the
I
only time where
For
it
the
seems
most
like,
part,
oh, this is kind of like where it feels a little awkward is
I
they add on this whole plot at the end.
I would say I feel a little bit of the awkwardness in some of like the emotional moments that I mentioned earlier on, like the oddness of the structure. You do eventually get like a full complete relationship with Alfred and Bat
Okay,
and Bruce
yeah,
Wayne,
that
but
is
it's just kind
lacking.
of presented in sort of a backwards
Well,
way where the first time I watched the movie I didn't really appreciate it. The second time I watched the movie I got it a little bit more because I was familiar with the script.
okay.
So I understood, but emotionally as an audience member,
Right, because the
yeah,
first two
I don't know.
times, the two big scenes we have of them, it's kind of this negative scene. Right, the
Hmm.
first one is you're not my real dad, and then there's a whole other scene later on in the movie where you're not a Wayne. Why do you even care? Right? It's like come on, man. Like where's the relationship here? All right,
Yeah.
so I agree with that.
To me,
But for me,
just
that's not like a
overall, it's
plot
really
pacing
presented.
thing. For me, that's just a character element thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Um, so yeah, so talking about the climax overall, I like what that climax achieves, but it still feels at least the plot element of it feels added on. There's no
Yeah.
way that the actual ending is added on because it just correlates so much with the beginning. It creates such a perfect framing device of the opening dialogue and the ending
Hmm.
dialogue. And the only way you have that ending dialogue is what that that additional plot gives
That
you.
Riddler goon. Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
so I don't think it is an add-on, but it just kind of still feels that way.
A
So
little bit. It's just the way that the movie is structured,
yeah, yeah,
in my opinion. Um, the actual fights, the actual like action in that climax, I generally liked, except for the final uh, pickle that he was in, where um, Catwoman ends up saving him, and
yeah.
then
They
he
had to
pulls
give
out this
Catwoman
green
something to
goop
do, I
that
think.
we've never seen
Well,
before.
oh yeah, I was actually that was one thing I did want. It's like, what did you think that was? I'm wondering if that's a some
Venom?
precursor to Venom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which actually, just a sidebar, in the Nolan movies, they could have implemented Venom a little bit,
yeah, they
um,
didn't. They didn't at
in
all.
that
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
In fact, the mask in the comics is what gives Bane his power. In the movie, it's what keeps away his pain. It's weird. It's like a reverse. And they could have done something with Venom if he's related to Ra's al Ghul. If his character is related to Ra's al Ghul in
Hmm.
that way, they could have done something with Venom in the Lazarus pit
But he
and
wasn't
made them
related
kind
to
of the
Ra's al
same
Ghul.
thing. Not, I didn't mean, I mean like story wise, not blood related, not like a
Oh, okay.
relation, not like
Okay.
a family or anything, but like he's
He's
involved
connected.
with
Yeah,
Ra's
yeah,
al
yeah. I
Ghul, so
got
he
you.
would have access to the Lazarus pit, and they could have done something like he scooped out Lazarus pit water and turned it into venom or something. They could have connected that somehow.
Yeah,
They didn't do
but
anything with
I
the
don't even think
Lazarus
they
pit
had Lazarus
or
bit.
venom.
I don't think they would have
Those are
even gone
big
that
parts
route.
of those two villains.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too realistic. But
Um.
just pointing it out.
y-
Anyway, I assume that's Venom, and I don't know. Is Venom green in Batman?
mm,
I don't know.
ye-
It doesn't really
Yeah, I
matter.
think so. At least in the game. I think in Arkham City or
I don't remember.
Arkham Asylum, the first one, one of
Bane's in
those.
both of them.
Yeah, yeah. I think Venom plays in both of them, right? Where does Joker become bulked out Joker?
That's the first one.
That's the first one. Okay, yeah, yeah. I think it was
That's
green.
Asylum. I think you're right.
But
I'm
anyway,
assuming it's Venom. It's just it came out of nowhere.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like adrenaline, an aspect of
Yeah,
it. So for me, it didn't like bother me any at all. Um, but I did know it was green. It's like okay, that's he's kind of giving himself adrenaline, but that wasn't adrenaline.
yeah. He got
Um,
real pissed off or something.
yeah. So it did seem
But
like
he didn't bolt up either.
didn't bulk up, but he definitely like was like beating that guy to death. Like he was punching that guy pretty hard, and he became more aggressive. So it's probably a more
Yeah,
realistic take of Venom. Like he's not.
it's like like he had like a whole like he was really pissed off and then he took a
Yeah,
bunch of
kind of like a
crack or something.
steroid. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Um.
Well, it was a little out of nowhere, but not a too not too distracting. Um, I generally liked the action in that final fight scene, just not the final resolution to the conflict
Okay.
with the Venom and with Catwoman saving him.
Hmm.
A little underwhelming. I wish there was something a little bit more tense, like instead of him hanging there with a gun pointing at him,
Yeah.
maybe he could have been getting beaten in the head with a pipe or something a little bit more visceral. I don't know. Something a little bit more
Yeah.
less conventional than being hung, than hanging off a cliff and having someone pointing a gun at you and not shooting right away, and then having another character save.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
I
little
think they
too
mostly did
much.
that just to give kind of Catwoman one more thing to do. Um.
It
Have her
calls
be
back
involved.
to how he saved her from Carmine Falcone, I guess, and
Okay.
then she comes back and saves him.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind
But
of. Yeah. So I was
it's
kind
just
of
a little
underwhelmed. I
conventional.
was underwhelmed with that aspect of the climax, but I still really did enjoy what the ending led into.
Yeah, I you phrased it perfectly by saying it wasn't the best done, but what it accomplishes is definitely what the movie needed.
Yeah. Which I really
So
like. For me, that almost makes it worth it. The kind of lack there is because what it accomplishes.
well, they could have done some. They could have had the fight go any different which way. You
Yeah.
could have had, but that's kind of just a personal nitpick. Overall, I really did like the movie. It's probably not my favorite Batman '89 and The Dark Knight are still my favorites.
Okay. Now I would rate this higher than 89. The only one I that's why I'm watching the Nolan movies right now because Dark Knight is right now my favorite Batman movie. Um,
Mhm. That's the
but
best.
it's been so long since I've seen it, so I want to watch it again and with this one kind of fresh in my mind because like honestly I don't know which one I like better between these two. This one might be this one might be up there.
I um I do like Dark Knight Rises, but I do technically think it's the weakest of the three. I still like it a
Yeah.
lot as a
Well,
movie.
I like yeah. I mean, I
I
do
think
like. Oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
it breaks the curse of having a bad third superhero movie.
Hmm.
I think it's a good solid third superhero movie. Just kind of clearly the weakest of the
Well,
three
maybe the Nolan
for
movies
me.
could be another conversation. I have. It's been a while since I've watched them, but my without really starting a whole other conversation, um, my biggest gripe with Dark Knight Rises is I feel like the lesson that Batman learned in Dark Knight Rises was the same lesson he learned in Batman Begins.
Why do we fall?
Basically,
To learn to pick ourselves back up.
kind of, yeah. And it's like I feel like that's I don't know. Yeah, for me, Dark Knight Rises
I see what
definitely is
you
my
mean.
least favorite of the three. It's been a while since I've watched it, so I can't quite articulate my gripes right now. Um, I I need to watch it again.
As far as
I need to watch it
as
again.
far as villains go, I like Bane more than Ra's al Ghul or Scarecrow. I mean, I like Ra's al Ghul more than Bane in general, but as
Yeah,
far as movie
but the way
portrayals,
yeah the
I think
Nolan portrayal.
Bane is the second best villain after the Joker for me.
Okay,
He's a real good presence for me,
okay,
and
yeah,
it doesn't bug me that Catwoman ends up killing him.
yeah. I honestly I didn't even remember that. I didn't really remember how Bane ends
Oh,
in Dark.
sorry.
It's been a long time
Even
since
though
I've watched Dark Knight
you've seen the
Rises.
movies,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean I've seen it. It's just been a
well, I
very
didn't
very
give
long
you.
time. So, but yeah, but I
Hey,
plan on
I could
rewatching
tell
them.
you all about it.
I
Okay.
plan on rewatching them.
I
But
still like that first Michael Keaton Batman '89. It's not.
oh, I enjoy
I
it.
see a lot of like YouTube. I see a lot of like YouTube titles that say it's a good movie, but it's the bad Batman movie. I
Hmm.
kind of agree, but it's just a fun spectacle, and I love what they do with the characters, and I love that portrayal of Gotham.
Yeah.
And it's
What
kind of got a weak script here and there, but it's just so fun.
what one of the things that I think people have to realize for that movie, and maybe we just do another video on those movies too, like the initial four movies.
you can say what you want to say
But
right now. Move we can move on after that.
I'll say is that really rejuvenized Batman, that movie, right? Because before
Hmm.
that, most people only knew of the Adam West Batman, which was a huge departure. Because even the earlier comic books of Batman was dark and gritty, and then in the '60s is when it became
Mm.
more like comic booky funny.
Child friendly.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
but that's not how that wasn't the 1940s Batman. 1940s Batman was actually fairly adult and fairly dark and gloomy. And
I've
then
actually read one of the very early appearances of the Joker in like the 30s where he's in a fight with Batman. He's
okay.
about to stab Batman with a knife, but he accidentally stabs himself,
Oh, okay.
and they show it. And it's like in the 30s or the 40s.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah. So
So yeah.
it's before a lot of that kind of censorship and stuff like that. Before it's like, oh, it's just a kid thing. Anyway, so um, it wasn't until, but that was most people. By the time '89 Batman came around, mo- the only thing most people knew about Batman at that point was Adam West Batman. And so
Mm.
what Burton's Batman did was really kind of bring it back to it's still very comic booky the way the movie plays, but it still has it goes back to kind of a more dark kind of Batman.
I think that Batman '89 movie accomplished quite a bit in our society. Actually,
Yeah.
I think it made people like our dad, like it really ignited their imagination. Like adults is what I'm saying. Like
Hmm.
even dad was probably like really into that. I looking back, I can kind of see how he was putting himself in that movie
Hmm.
even as an adult. And I think that's kind of like I kind of get the impression that a lot of men in America were kind of really feeling that imagination in that time
Hmm.
in a way that they probably hadn't since like maybe Superman or maybe Star Wars.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's been like what Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies, and that's the man that they want to
Right.
be. But now it's like this guy in like a black Batman bat suit with ears and a cape and everything, and now this is what modern men in America are imagining themselves as,
Hmm.
with their Batmobile and their awesome car and everything,
Yeah.
and so uh, that's just kind of like my impression. I really feel like Batman '89 really got into our psyches,
Hmm.
even male adults at the time. It
Oh,
really penetrated their brains.
okay. Well, I hadn't really thought about that in terms of just culture wise. Um, so that's kind of
Well,
an interesting note.
yeah, I didn't mean to get into that, but
No,
that's
it's
just
all right.
something I
It's
guess
all
I've
good.
always wanted to say.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but I do think what I do appreciate from the '89 Batman is just how it revitalized Batman as a
Hmm.
character,
Turned it adult.
which directly inspired the Batman animated series, which is one of the best cartoon series out there
Hmm.
amongst all cartoon series, and it's just a very real,
It's one of the best representations of Batman.
yeah, yeah, and that was a direct byproduct of the Burton Batman movies. So,
So, I guess maybe wrapping up, where would you like to see the Batman
oh
sequel
yeah,
go?
yeah. So I would like to see, you know, Bruce take on more of a Bruce Wayne role.
Yeah,
Kind of learn like the necessity of
Riddler.
having like that alter ego kind of aspect of it. Um, as far as villain, I mean, they're
Yeah,
kind of lining up.
you can explore that with like a business life and a personal life.
Say again?
They can explore Bruce Wayne in like his business life and a personal life. They've
Yeah.
got different ways they can go.
Um,
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah. As far as villain, um,
I have a way too specific hopes,
way too
but
specific hopes. I mean, obviously, I mean they're clearly indicating Joker to some degree,
yeah, and Penguin.
and yeah, and Penguin's still around, so I could see Penguin coming back.
They have him looking out the window, looking at Gotham like, this is all mine now, basically. Like
Hmm.
I'm Carmine Falcone
Yeah.
at the end of the movie.
So I could see that. Um, Well, and they killed off the DA so they could bring in Harvey Dent.
Who was the D? I don't even remember.
He was
I don't remember when they
the
killed
guy who
him.
was all drugged up.
Who?
Well, he was the guy who had the collar around his neck.
Oh, he was the DA.
Yeah, that was
That's
the DA.
Skarsgård. What's his name? Peter Skarsgård. I know that actor.
Wait, the guy who plays
Okay.
it?
No,
Okay.
no. The guy who plays Hector Hammond in Green Lantern. If you've seen that, I think
No,
that's him.
no, I haven't. But I need to look it up because
Okay.
that last name sounds very familiar to the guy who plays it, and maybe he's related.
I think they have the same last name, but
Okay.
no, I think that's Bill Skarsgård or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
think you're
that's
right. I think you're right. Who did you say this was?
Peter Skarsgård. Is that
Okay.
his name?
I don't know. I have to
I
look
might
it
be
up.
fudging that. I don't know. I feel bad for him. He's a good actor.
Okay. Well, anyway. Um,
He's the man in the Iron Mask. He dies.
what I would love to see, and I don't know if it would work for this Batman, would be a better representation of Mr. Freeze.
I have ideas for that.
I'm not sure how that would
Well,
work with this kind of Batman, with this
I
more.
think the only thing they couldn't do is the freeze gun.
That's like his whole thing.
Maybe they can like have him grab people by the throat, and he's just a really frosty guy that he freezes their throat or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
He's like
I feel
he's
like a
like
freeze gun's
genetically
more
altered.
realistic than
That's
that. But nonetheless, like the
you're
whole
probably right.
tragic backstory of the
Yeah.
wife and whatnot. Um,
Well,
even him
maybe like his
suffering
genetics
from.
have been altered.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Frosty.
still do that because I feel like the cartoon did a pretty good job at of him becoming Mr. Freeze aspect. Maybe not so much the freeze
If
gun.
they can settle the freeze gun issue,
Yeah, that's the thing that makes him kind of weird. That makes it almost not quite fitting for this. But I would love to see a better film representation of Mr. Freeze because that's my favorite Batman bad guy.
he's yeah he's one of the better Batman villains. Definitely with that backstory. That was just I don't know why Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't play Bane in that movie with Bane in it, but it was Mr. Freeze. Who would
Yeah.
you get to play Mr. Freeze?
Oh, I
Patrick
don't
Stewart?
know. I can see that. He might be a little old now.
Yeah, maybe.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I'm not sure. I would have to give that some thought. Maybe
Who would be
Michael Fassbender, whatever his name is, the guy who's played Magneto in the newer.
Magneto?
Yeah,
Shave his head and he can do it. Like that guy can do anything.
yeah.
He's a really good
Maybe
actor.
him.
Why him?
I don't know. He just kind of seems to have the kind of that dramatic aspect of him, the way he played Magneto. And Mr. Freeze
Hmm.
is kind of like a
Totally.
Magneto-ish kind of character, where he's kind of like he's a bad
Yeah,
guy but sympathetic.
jaded.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
and just but and he kind of looks he could kind of pull that off, right? Kind of have I don't know. I think physical characteristics, just how I could kind of remember him from the cartoon anyway.
I see what you mean. I can totally picture that actor with like faintly blue frost makeup all over his face.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, specifically, I don't know. I doubt it's ever going to happen, especially if I say it out loud.
Hmm.
But I've always kind of wanted a movie where Batman is caught between a gang war between Penguin and Scarecrow. And now that we have Penguin,
Hmm.
we can have Scarecrow. We can have Scarecrow do much more Scarecrow like things than he
Hmm.
did in the Nolan movies. And I think if I don't very specific. If I was going to write the movie, I'd have just to throw it out there, Scarecrow and Firefly team up against Penguin, and maybe Penguin has like Killer Croc hidden underneath his lair because he likes to have aquatic
Hmm.
animals and stuff. Either Killer Croc, my original idea was actually Mr. Freeze, and he's like the main.
Oh, okay.
Uh, he's like the main. He's like the real villain who's calling the shots behind Penguin.
Hmm.
Because that would make sense putting Penguin and Mr. Freeze together because they both like cold. But That was kind of like my only real justification putting them together. But yeah, I really want to see a nice gang war where
Hmm.
Batman's caught between a gang war with Scarecrow and Penguin.
Hmm.
I think it would be cool to have Firefly in there too. He's a pretty realistic guy. Jetpack, flamethrower, that's all you need.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of forgot about Firefly. I remember he was a pain in the butt in one of the Arkham games.
Really?
Think it.
I only played the first two.
Think he was in Arkham Knight, which is the fourth one.
Oh, okay. Did they ever get around to doing Man Bat?
Yeah, he was in. I think he was in Arkham Knight as well.
Whenever they do Joker, I hope they do. I hope they have like. I think it would be good to have Joker, Hugo Strange, and maybe Scarface and the Puppet Master all in the same movie, dealing with like psychotic stuff.
Hmm.
I'm just kind of throwing things out there.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. Because I'm trying to think of what would fit kind of the tone that they've established for this Batman as well.
Bane, Bane kind of fits this
Yeah,
profile, I think.
I suppose. I suppose.
If they can settle the Venom issue, well, they already did Venom.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they kind of have that precursor to a degree.
I think Scarecrow and Bane are probably the ones that.
Well, Two Face could be pretty easy for this too. He's a
Oh
pretty
yeah,
down to earth kind of
Two
bad
Face,
guy.
Scarecrow, and Bane would probably be the ones that fit this universe
So
the most, I would say.
repeating the Nolan bad guys.
Yeah, we already got the Joker. Well, no, we barely got the Scarecrow, and he's such a good Batman villain. He's in all three movies, and he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the only thing he does, well, the only one he's really in is in the first one. I mean, yeah, he's
Yeah,
technically in the second one, kind of. And I kind of remember him in the third one, but I don't really remember what he does, if anything.
I could tell you, but it's really not that much. It's not like a spoiler or anything.
I
But
don't
I
think
know you're
he
gonna watch
he
the
doesn't
movie
really
pretty
play a
soon.
big role, right? It's just fairly
Yeah, he doesn't.
fairly
He's in
small.
like one. He's in one scene.
It's like a Jar Jar scene where
Yeah,
he's like a bigger role in the first one, but his
except
roles
we
in the
actually like Scarecrow.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the idea of like he's technically in all three, but he's really only in the first one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good comparison. If you forget the fact that we hate Jar Jar Binks.
Because I yeah, okay,
Well, Scarecrow. Scarecrow's the one I really want them
okay.
to get. I wouldn't mind it if they somehow got Mad Hatter in there, but
Hmm.
not necessarily as like a main threat, just kind of like as a side threat. He's not really a main threat kind of villain.
No, I was thinking Zaz.
Yeah, that's super realistic. He's in Batman Begins.
Yeah, I know. I just watched that. I'm like, oh, they do got Zaz in here.
Yeah,
I think
so
when
it's
I first saw
technically
Batman
similar.
Begins, I didn't know who Zaz was, so I just didn't pay attention to it.
I don't think he has the scars in the movie.
I don't think he does. They just call him Zaz. He was on, yeah. Um, but again, he's not. Well, I thought, um, when Riddler kills the bad guy or kills the mayor in this movie, at first I didn't know that was Riddler.
Hmm.
I just thought it was just some murderer. I didn't
Uh-huh.
realize I didn't because I didn't know what Riddler was gonna look like in this movie. I hadn't really
Oh.
paid attention to that stuff. Um, so I thought that was gonna be Zaz. I thought that was once I realized that this was not the Waynes. I thought maybe that's the route they're going. The first time I saw
Mhm.
it, before I realized that he was the Riddler. But anyway, yeah. So probably Two Face. Two Face for me would probably make sense for this Batman, and that'd probably be one who had. And they kind of set it up because they killed off the DA, so
Mhm.
now they need a new DA. So who better than Harvey Dent?
The Dark Knight really got Harvey Dent down, but the Two Face aspects were a little lacking.
Yeah, yeah, it was rushed.
It's there, but yeah, it's definitely rushed.
So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Okay. The next one, I would introduce Harvey Dent and have him be a prominent role, kind of like how he was in Dark Knight. But I wouldn't
Mhm.
turn him into Two Face in this movie. Or if I
Mm.
did, I would do it at the very end as almost like a cliffhanger, or as just as the resolution of the movie, he becomes Two Face,
Hmm.
and that's
I think I like that.
and then that opens
I like
up to the next one. So somebody else would be the main bad guy, kind of I guess like the Joker was for Dark Knight. Um, Somebody else is the main bad guy in this movie, but by the end of the movie, Two Face is created and then is the main threat for the next movie.
I
Something
wouldn't
like
mind
that.
that. I
Something like
like that.
that.
Two-Face is one of the better Batman villains.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Again, I loved what they did in the animated series because they really played up the Harvey Dent. Well, they
That's
did it
like the
right.
definitive.
Yeah. Well, not only the Two Face episodes, which is a two-part episode in itself, but they
Hmm.
introduced Harvey Dent well in the beginning of the series for the first strong couple
Oh yeah,
episodes where you see Bruce and Harvey actually have a friendship
that's right.
throughout the cartoon series, and then it's not until the Two Face episode that he becomes Two Face, of course, and it's very dramatic. Um, Dealing with split personality and stuff like that. Some things that were very mature, especially for a kids show,
Right.
and how it was represented. And it hurts all the more because it's a character that you already liked and was established as Bruce's friend.
Hmm.
Because by then he had already been
That's
poisoned
done really
by
well.
Poison Ivy and all that in the
Yeah.
cartoon. Like he was already a
Right.
victim of some of the bad guys, and Bruce had to save him. And so, anyway, so something like that, where in this movie you really establish that friendship. Maybe this is a friendship that starts to get Bruce to get out of his shell a little bit and kind of be more of a Bruce.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
now
that'd
you're
be great.
establishing that friendship. You're establishing that he's actually being a good DA.
That
Y-
would be something that we've never seen Bruce Wayne do before in any movie. Have like a friend who isn't like someone who's gonna try to marry eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Because even in Dark Knight, he was kind of like he liked him, but he still had to be somewhat antagonistic because they had the same
Yeah.
love interests. Um,
Yeah, they weren't exactly friends.
no,
They were contemporaries. They were on the same side,
they
but
were on the same. Well, Batman liked him because Batman
yeah.
was looking at Harvey as the guy that can make it so that you don't need Batman anymore. And Batman really valued Harvey Dent and really liked Harvey Dent. Bruce didn't like Harvey because Harvey was going after the same girl.
Mm.
So it's kind of interesting there. But yeah, no. So really pull and establish that relationship so it's all the more dramatic when he becomes Two Face, and now Batman's not just trying to beat Two Face; he's trying to save Two Face, and that becomes maybe
Space
the
is one of
the
the
main
better.
plot.
It would be one of the more like emotional villains that they can use.
Yeah. So
Because
something like that. That's what the Long Halloween is about.
oh, it's about Two Face.
Yeah. He plays a major role into it. It's the definitive comic book story of how Two Face becomes Two Face. The
Oh,
Long
I didn't know
Halloween.
that.
Yep.
Oh, now I'm a little bit more interested. I've only read a few of the Batman graphic novels.
I only
Long
know because I've
Halloween and Hush are ones I've not.
um Long Halloween is I only watched the movies. It's a two-part movie though. So they actually spend two whole movies on telling the story.
Okay. Is the graphic novel series that long?
I've never read the graphics novel series. I
No.
don't know. I've only I Most of my knowledge of all this stuff comes from the movies and then what I've researched online.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, well, I think we're oh dang, we're almost at 3 hours.
Oh wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just looked
It's
at the time.
5:40 where I'm at.
Yep, it's 8:40 for my time.
Well, we talked a whole lot about Batman.
Yeah, we almost talked the whole length of Batman.
Oh God, yeah. Basically, it could be like a commentary track.
Yeah, almost.
Um, I wouldn't mind getting to into the Avengers movies with you.
Yeah,
We've got four Avengers movies that we've barely ever talked about.
yeah. We haven't really talked about MCU stuff at all. So yeah, Well, let's end this one and we can brainstorm what we want to talk about next time. And um, I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about.
They
Think
just keep making movies.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream, so the video chat will stay on. I'm just ending the stream aspect of this.
Okay.
All right. So